Free State called Tawana Imalemo, and she focused on LGBTQI plus aspects, and we will all be educated on the different terms, terminology, and so on, because I think we realized that the world is much broader than just being born male or female. So she's also the newsletter editor-in-chief for the Imalemo Queer Times, Free State Queer newsletter. It would be lovely if we can ask Nosana as much questions as possible for us to be educated. And I'm putting myself here in the foot of the students. I'm very eager to learn. Furthermore, Nosana is a co-founder of the Free State's Art Symposium. She is a multimedia practitioner for the Free State Wombman in theatre, creative director of Physical Divine, a multimedia production house, and she's been very involved with the multimedia digital world by doing also live documentary production and magazine content performances and video productions. Well, all I can say is that really Nosana is one talented woman. I have to mention she's mentoring a lot of young people on poetry, storytelling, visual arts and drama. And then she's very well known for her activism in the LGBTQIA plus sector. And let's learn from Nosana. I will facilitate a session, but it's always nice to have a small class. So I would love a lively back and forth discussion. So this is for us to learn about how to do advocacy, and even let's say you don't go and carry on with gender. Being a development worker means advocacy in itself. You have to know how to communicate with our communities on a specific topic. And Nosana, I'm going to give over to you. Teach us how to be activists. Teach us how to do advocacy, and most important, sensitize us about a lot of the gender principles that we would not necessarily read up in our theories. And I do see Globe is recording. Thank you very much for that. And with no further ado, I'm giving over to Nosana to take us through on yes, Cynthia, fantastic. That is absolutely the message we want to get. And don't be fearless. We've got intimate sessions with each other. There's no question too burning not to ask. So make use of the time. I'm just going to mute my video, but once I speak, I will put it on again. Nosana, over to you. What do we need to know? Where do we start? We are very excited to be the best development practitioners that comes out of this center.
Thank you so very much, Anita, for having me, for inviting Tawana Imalemo, the LGBTI NGO here in the Free State, and myself as an independent activist. I can't see myself. I like to see, oh, is it not going to work like that? Because now I'm staring at speaker view.
Nosana, we can see you very clearly.
Fine?
Yes.
I'm very excited, Anita, to be doing this presentation, which is a discussion, which is a dialogue, which is a peeling of multiple layers, which is a safe space, right? Because a lot of us run away from certain taboo subjects like Oh, what kind of sex are you having? Can you make a baby doing that kind of sex? Oh, no, you can't. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? And it always ends there. It always ends with sex. So I'm very excited today to be not just talking about sex, sexuality, gender identity, gender expression, but also to be open to answer questions around um, the lifestyle that involves so much shame and so much hidden information, especially when it comes to the third sex, which I'll get into. My name is Nosana Sondiyazi. From the bio that you were reading, Anita, I think people will pick up that I've been in the arts a little bit. I studied the dramatic arts at the University of the Free State after having written a one-woman play and toured with it without any formal training. And then in 2009, I decided, actually, I'm a passionate feminist. Um, and what I love about certain titles that we carry and certain titles that are given to us is that, for me, the most real ones are the ones that are given to us because of proof that that is how we are, that is how we practice, that is how we walk through the world. So my first title, which I took on in 2009, was that of a feminist. And the reason for that was people around me were saying, why are you always pushing the female agenda? Why are you always bumping heads with information around female equality? And I didn't understand why that question was existing anyway. Because, like, well, because I'm female, because I'm here, I'm also equal. Why must I take a step back? Why must I be the second sex or the third sex or the silenced sex, right? So through my art and through the projects that over the years, whether it was a fluid speed dating, I'll explain what fluid is in a bit, or through my own one woman play, which was called Escapism, the Poet Drama, or through my poetry, which was very much trying to take my personal emotional battles and put them in the forefront. I realized, actually, yes, gender equality is something that I really push for, that I cannot be silenced about. So today, one of the first presentations that I'm going to show as and share on my screen is one called Sex, Gender, and Sexuality. Let me open it up.
Nosana, I'm just going to play devil's advocate in
Yes,
between.
let's go ahead.
Because for myself, as I said, it is for me also important to learn as we go along. So can you maybe just give us a very brief definition from your understanding on feminism? A lot of the time, the definitions are so loaded that, you get lost even before you get to the second sentence. So can you enlighten us from your point of view? What
My
is,
personal point of view,
yes,
Anita,
yes. What is
is that
feminism?
in 2009, when I did my first sex talk, the first thing I just decided to spill on the table is to say, feminism is dead. All the feminists are horny, because there's this stereotype that feminists are angry, sexually frustrated, hate men, and that is the most skewed understanding one could possibly ever think feminism is, because it's unfortunate that the word has to be called feminism, because feminism, as far as I'm concerned, is human rights for both sexes. And what happens a lot is, I think feminism had to grow its own independent feministic identity, because that's where females were not afforded the same equal rights. So I'm not one of these let's overthrow the patriarchy, let's return the matriarchy, let's suppress the men, which unfortunately is quite a young popular view of what feminism is, that it's women's turn to take over, it's women's turn to suppress, it's women's turn to lead. A man is easily a feminist if he believes that men and women voices are both relevant in any conversation, because feminism is needed because of the imbalance in in so many aspects of how men and women are treated in the workplace, in employment, in the home, in the roles that are expected of us, you know. And so I'm that feminist. I'm the happy feminist. I'm the horny feminist. Because we are not just angry and sexually frustrated.
Okay, thank you. So it helps a lot. So it's all about human rights and equality in the end. So thank you
Yes.
for allowing me to.
Yes, because when we call ourselves feminists, we're sometimes pushed into this box like, oh, we're going to be angry with men together. We're going to exclude men together. You'll notice that I'm part of also a artistic collective called Free State Women in Theatre. And also that doesn't exclude men, you know. But yes, now please help me get all those files that I just uploaded. I was uploading them onto the screen. Where do I find them again? Who's our Mushope? There are some files that I uploaded onto the screen. There's a PDF, but now are they in the chat? Where will I find them again?
Okay,
There we
something's
go.
loading. Okay.
All right. So this is the biggest that it can look. Let me make my screen bigger so that we see everything. Pumlani, did we get introduced to Pumlani? Pumlani is already left. I hope Pumlani comes back and joins us.
Yeah, Nosana, the students do lose connections throughout the day, depending on their locations.
I just thought my introduction was so provocative that Pumlani was like, oh, I've heard it. I do not need any more. So I shouldn't take offense on that. People are just going to be in and out with their connection.
No, she's back.
Yeah, Pumlani's back. I won't take offense. I won't be reporting out loud who's leaving, who's here anymore. So this doesn't show the entire full slide. It just shows this half page.
Okay. So from our side, we can see the whole slide.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see the whole slide, and the students, if you can maybe just also give us a quick feedback. So Cynthia says she can also see.
All right, so this is the sex, gender identity, and sexual orientation slide, which gives the introduction of explaining exactly what is LGBTQIA+. What are those definitions? What does it mean? You know, the entire acronym of LGBTQIA+, it falls into these categories which are here. Either we are talking about your sex. Now, your sex is different from your gender because your sex is your biology, your anatomy. It is the genitals that you were assigned at birth, the chromosomes that you were assigned at in puberty. That is your sex. It is usually what will be on your birth certificate and on your ID, which have only got two options, male and female, right? And the gender is different from your sex, because your gender is a mental thinking capacity of how you view yourself. What is your identity physically? So the reason why there are transgender people, for an example, is because if you are a trans woman and your ID says you're a boy, you're male, and you are living as a woman, your gender is female, but your sex is male. That is why your gender identity can be your choice. It's how you think, right? And in between is a sex that is hidden, that has been forgotten, that is not spoken about. It is the sex which is called the intersex, which is also a physical sex. What happens sometimes, a baby is born, and sometimes it is visible from how your genitals look, that, hey, the doctor is suddenly not sure if these genitals are male or female, right? And sometimes a person is intersex because of the visibly showing ambiguous genitalia, or later in life when you perhaps reach puberty and you were growing up as a girl, and then the next thing your voice breaks, you start growing a beard, and then the parents go like, wait, what is happening with my child? Their maturity, their puberty is not in line with how we thought they were when they were children. So that's the ambiguous intersex, hidden sex, because there was a time when the doctor would say, oh, is that the tiniest penis or the most enlarged clitoris? And they would ask the parent, what would you like? And then they'd perform a surgery, which sometimes would not be in line with how the child grows up to identify as themselves. So what is the practice now is that we we are really supposed to allow an intersex baby, which is visibly intersex with the genitalia, to grow up with the intersex genitals. And then later on in life, especially after puberty and after they've discovered their sexual orientation, then if an operation surgery is necessary, they choose for themselves. Because I have a friend in Durban who was a boy until she started menstruating out of her bum. And that's when her parents had to I'm calling her now, because when I met her, she was a trans woman. Um, that's when she found out that her parents had made a choice while she was a baby and said, make this one a boy, we want a boy. But then the chromosomes had not fully developed, the puberty had not shown itself, the other aspects of this person had not fully matured, right? Um, and then the last section on the slide is the sexual orientation. Your sexual orientation is who you are attracted to, who you're going to date, who you're going to have sex with, who you are, who you're going to be romantic with. So can you see the different categories? That it's first the sex, which is physical, biological, the intersex, which is in between, because usually the intersex is left out of the sex conversation because people are saying that, what sex are you, male or female? And then the intersex is not spoken about, which is why it's included in this slide. Your gender identity is your brain. It's not your body anymore like your sex, it's your brain. And then the sexual orientation is your heart. And then we can move on to the next slide. Is that all understood, the first slide over there? Any questions?
Yeah, do you have any questions here? Nosana, maybe from my side, if you can just explain a little bit, or maybe it's still coming, about what is binary, non-binary, gender non-confirming, transgender, cisgender, gender fluid. This is words that when I was studying gender, that wasn't something that we were taught, you know. So, and that is why I'm so
Oh,
happy to
yes.
have you here. It is the youth of today. If I go to smaller places, they are so talking openly about these aspects, and then I really realize my age of and also what I've been missing in my gender studies a few decades
No,
back.
absolutely. Um, those are different descriptions that are falling into some of these categories, which there'll be slides for. Okay. Um, this is usually the first slide, whereby because now we've discussed gender as male and female, there's also the description of unisex, which describes something that is for both sexes. And the nice thing about when something is unisex, whether you are identifying as either one sex, which is binary, or neither sex, which is non-binary, or both sexes, which is either non-binary or gender non-conforming, the unisex kind of covers you, which is why we are advocating for unisex bathrooms, because certain individuals externally and physically are not exhibiting what people would go like, but what are you doing in this bathroom? This is for females only. And then we will easily discriminate against people because of how we understand their sex and how we understand their gender. So an inclusive um, thing to do in gatherings is to have unisex bathrooms so that somebody who does not fall under male or female has also got a place where they feel like they're allowed to use the bathroom. And it doesn't just end with bathroom, it's also clothes. It's also different items, you know. I've got a unisex description that I'll get further into unisex. Yes, and this is it. It's become more and more important that we embrace the unisex, the gender line, whereby on either side is either male or female, and then the unisex is where both male and female come together. When I speak to young people, especially young queer people, and their first expression of themselves is to identify with either toys or items of clothing or behavior that is known to be of the opposite sex. What I like to say now is, don't let people tease you if you are a boy child and you like to wear dresses. Don't let people tease you if you're a girl child and you like to play with cars and boys' toys. You have made whatever item that you enjoy a unisex item. It can no longer be hogged by the one sex, you know? So more and more, I like to say people, hey, did you like to wear your mother's blouse and then you were called a sissy? No, you were making that blouse unisex, because why should one gender or one sex claim either items of clothing or any type of physical accessory? um you know, even now, even jobs, we know there was a time when there were jobs where like, we're looking for a man to do this kind of job. No, this job's not for men anymore. It's unisex, it's for both sexes. And now it's not something that stands on its own and then you have to go to it and say, I'm going to go to this. You can take it and make something unisex yourself. Hope that's understandable, right? Intersex, I've described also. The reason why it's so important for us to understand the intersex sex is because it's been such a hidden sex. It's been a sex. Most intersex human beings that I've come up with have had a really painful and traumatic childhood, whereby parents made decisions for you and said, you must never, if it's time to play sport in school, if it's time to change your clothes, if it's time to you know, when that time arrives and then people are confused about your body, you are supposed to hide the facts about yourself. And the more, it's the most isolating sex, because there's not enough intersex people for us to know, like, oh, that guy has got a beard. I mean, that guy's got breasts. Oh, that woman's got a beard. You know what I mean? Because it will happen a lot that intersex human beings have got both physical traits, you know, that like, oh, but I see that you have a beard, but I also see you got breasts. And then the first thing we'll want to be curious about is like, what do your genitals look like? And that's really none of our business, because intersex human beings have been fetishized. Intersex human beings have been the subject of brutal curiosity, even in social spaces. Can we consider having a toilet for unisex? Absolutely. Um, it's most recommended, you know what I mean? Because uh, then you are not leaving any. Look, South Africa is the rape capital of the world, right? We are afraid in bathrooms. We know the Dross incident that happened. We are afraid in bathrooms that just because we pull our pants down in the bathrooms, now for a few seconds, our genitals are just doing their business. And now this is a space where predators can come and be predators, right? But honestly, if a unisex bathroom is there for what it's supposed to be used for, someone is there to just perform what they're going to perform in the loo, why does it matter what genitals the person has? Do you know what I mean? We should really be safe in bathrooms. So I know there are lots of institutions, including the UFS, that has unisex inclusive bathrooms, even restaurants that I've been to here in Bloemfontein. Um, that really accommodates the transgender human beings, which I'll get into. The intersex person is somebody's sex. The intersex person has not given us their gender identity yet or their sexual orientation yet. They're normally quite hidden, and they normally struggle, because now here you are, you're young, you're maturing, you either like girls or boys, and then the person you're attracted to either sees you are a girl or a boy, and then they're surprised to find whatever they're going to find if you guys are going to have sex. And what I would like us to normalize is that there aren't just men and women genitals, and no intersex genitals look the same. Sometimes an intersex person will have um, a vagina or a penis that won't look like it's ambiguous, but then internally the organs, the chromosome count is higher or lower than what is we are identifying them as their sex, right? As you can see, you'll notice that I'll just be doing just I'll be talking through the descriptions, but the description as it's written kind of also gives the outline, you know. And here are some of the descriptions that you've been asking for, Anita. I have not started talking about the transgender community yet, because before we start describing the transgender gender identity, we have to understand the word cisgender, because what would happen is somebody would be transgender. Oh, you're a boy. Oh, you're a girl. But weren't you a boy? Weren't you a girl? What are you really? Are you a boy or a girl? Why are you dressing as a girl? Why are you dressing as a boy? You are confusing us. Are you normal, or are you all dressed up? Are you pretending? You know, there would be all these words, these very brutal, insulting, unaffirming words that would be used to describe a human being who perhaps expresses themselves as not the gender that they were born at birth, that they were assigned at birth. So then the conversation, even in a medical office, they would say, are you normal or are you transgender? And then that would be where the first layer of brutality comes in, because transgender people are normal. Here is a normal woman who was born female, who was born male, being a normal woman. No, just because she's got a penis, what makes her not normal? So the word cisgender was introduced. I'm not quite sure exactly when it was introduced, and I'm not quite sure exactly cis, why that word cis is used. But basically, the word cisgender is the opposite of the word transgender. It's got nothing to do with your sexual orientation. You can be a cisgender gay man. You are a cisgender gay man because you were born male. You agree that you're male and you live your life expressing yourself as a male. You are cisgender because you were born a girl, you live as a girl, your brain tells you you're a girl, your body tells you that you're a girl. That does not make you normal, that makes you cisgender, which is why there's transgender and cisgender. And as you can see, this is just gender, not sexual orientation, right? Now, when you are gender fluid, right? Now we are saying, my gender does not stay the same in terms of how I express myself, right? I sometimes am feeling masculine. I sometimes am feeling feminine. So depending on how I feel that day, I don't stick to the same gender. You know what I mean? Whether I do it as a art practice, as a creative expression, or as I do it as a lifestyle practice. We know it is often mostly the LGBTI community that plays on the gender fluid line. That, oh, when I last saw you, maybe you'll meet perhaps a gay man who is dressed up in drag, and then you'll immediately assume that, oh, this person is transgender. Not necessarily, because especially if you see them the next day in a suit and a tie and quite confident also their masculinity. So that's where now the fluidity comes in. What I like to do, if maybe we were meeting in person and we were writing down our names on like cards that we're going to put on the table or on our chest, I would give us each permanent markers because I would like us at least to stick to one gender just for the session, you know, because now your gender also denotates your pronouns. Are you she? Are you he? You know, um, how would you like me to? How would you like me to refer to you? So, you'll notice that some people are very open to take on both gender pronouns, gender expressions. Hey girl, hey brah. Do you know what I mean? It's usually known to be quite flamboyant people who like to be fully all encompassing with their gender. Ne? And also, what I'd like to emphasize here is that the gender that you express when you're being fluid, a person mustn't necessarily expect to understand what that gender is. We know now more often than not that gay men will wear makeup, lipstick, eyelashes, you know, they will wear heels. But they will be cisgender, but they're expressing themselves with this feminine expression. So how you're being fluid also, it also means you can be fluid in the sense that you can't really tell what gender I am because you are embracing both genders with how you are adorning yourself, how you are expressing yourself, and whether it's clothes or makeup. So that's also somebody who's gender fluid. Yes, everybody. um, Please feel free to ask questions. But is it clear though, the cisgender and the gender fluidity? There's lots to discuss. We'll probably come up with examples later. Pansexual. You notice?
Sorry, my
Yes.
hand was not up. I don't even know where I should put my hand up. It's Kolisa
Yes.
speaking. I'm Anita's colleague.
Hi, Kolisa.
Uh, with a cisgender, I'm a bit confused. So
If I was born a female, so that's my sex, right?
Sex. Yes.
And I acknowledge that I'm a female and
Yes.
I have female genitalia.
Yes.
And in all of it, I accept myself as a female. Does that mean I'm
Yes.
cisgender? Okay.
It does.
Okay. That's okay. I understand now.
We're running away from calling yourself normal.
Okay, so that's where it distinguishes just between the normal and the so-called abnormal with the other genders.
Yes, we try to find a word that doesn't make other people classify themselves easily as normal because
Yeah,
their genitals and their brain are saying one story, and then
yeah.
somebody who's the opposite as that is abnormal. That's why there's
Okay,
cisgender and transgender. Yeah.
okay.
All right. Thanks, Kolisa. You'll notice, can I refer to myself as cisgender? Yes, Cynthia. If you, Cynthia, were born female and you grew up feeling like you're comfortable being called a girl, and even now as a woman, being female and being a woman in something that you're comfortable with, it means then your body and your brain are saying, I'm one gender, né? Which is the binary. The binary is that I'm fully one thing, one side, yeah. And now you'll notice that there's LGBTQIA plus. And I've started with the difficult one, which is the plus, right? Because there's all these other pluses, because there's no P in LGBTQIA plus. There's no C for cisgender. There's no F for fluid, right? But these are all the pluses. But I kind of feel like once we describe the intricate details that are so varied, then we kind of are leaving like a foundation to finally say, okay, this is the scope, this is the spectrum. And the reason why pansexual is also right here is because there was homosexual, heterosexual, and bisexual, and that was all that you had to understand, right? You either like one type of sex, which is the same sex as you, or you like the one type of sex, which is the opposite sex as you, or you like both sexes. That's why you're bisexual. And from what we've been discussing now, we know there's so many types of sexes and so many types of sexual orientations. So when somebody is pansexual, I consider it to be the upgrade from bisexual, because now you are pan, you are open. You are not deciding that, oh, I'm female, I've always liked females, that needs to be female, that's me, I'm lesbian, that's it. Or I'm male, I only like females, I'm heterosexual. Now you are knowing, the world is bigger than all of that. So a lot of people, instead of calling themselves bisexual, they're saying, no, I'm pansexual, I'm open. I'm not sure, I'm not going to require things to be whatever in your underwear. I'm not going to require for you to have a particular type of sexual history. I'm open, right? And fluidity, sexual fluidity is the same as pansexual, because now you can change your mind. You haven't met everybody in the world. You could meet this masculine, dashing Adonis of a man, and you wouldn't know he's got a vagina in there, right? Because he could have a beard, he could have had all kinds of treatment. And now you thought you were heterosexual until you met a man with a vagina. And then you're like, well, the word also that we run away from, as much as we run away from the word normal, is the word confused. You see, the word fluid is a word that we are using to embrace all of how we exercise our curiosities and our interests in other people. Because now people can't be waving a finger at you and saying, oh, but you've changed your mind. Oh, but you don't know what you want. Oh, you're confused. No, darling, I am fluid. And that's also, it doesn't mean that you got multiple sexual partners. It doesn't mean that you flip-flop. It doesn't mean today it's this, tomorrow it's that. It just means that you know that, you know, your tastes are ever changing and what's available is ever changing. Are there some raised hands that I'm not paying attention to?
Nosana, I'll probably just come in quickly here to say that I'm really learning a lot here, and I just want to say you've opened my mind in terms of that we've been conditioned so long to think about we need to be attracted to the opposite sex, but I've seen with the young people these days, it's really they fall in love with a person, you know, that
Yes,
it's not the same as it was when 20 years ago where you were restricted, but you almost what if I hear you correctly is that you fall in love with the type of person that synchronize with you, and then the
yes,
rest is just like add-ons, you know, it doesn't define or restrict you to who you can love or not. So I have to say
that's
this is really
correct.
helping me to understand the um, concepts better, and it would be nice to hear from the floor also. I think Cynthia asked here,
Yes.
does pansexual as an example refer to a married man to a woman who also dates males?
uh, a person can, yes. I mean, that could also just mean that you're polyamorous, you know, that it's more than, once it becomes more than one, Cynthia, it's more poly. Do you know what I mean? So yes, because you are polyamorous and you're not just dating your wife and other women, and you're also dating other men, you can fit easily into the pansexual description, right? Um, what the others like to say is the this is a term that has to be reclaimed, because sometimes men marry women based on societal expectations, and they've been gay the entire time, but they knew that they had to satisfy family obligations and marry a woman, but actually they gay or they bisexual. So then they have to maintain a particular image in society by being married, but then they give themselves permission for extracurricular activities. And I like how you're putting it, Cynthia, because now it's not judging that particular individual when you're calling him pansexual, when he's dating men outside of his marriage. But then the deeper issue is the woman aware? Is she agreeing? Is she not feeling cheated on? Is it a secret life? Is it a dangerous life? Because one of my best friends a few years ago, her parents got divorced, and then the dad was living an openly gay life after divorcing his wife, right? And then he was a very respected high school teacher in the community, but then he was found dead in the street, stabbed 10 times, you know. And he was an older man, he was in his 50s. And it left so many questions. The questions that it left was like, who was he dating? You know, because they are certain kinds of um, dangers when you are a respectable member of society and then you are known to be having the secret life, because it is said that men in prison do practice anal sex and gay sex. And then, because if you're a respectable man, it might be difficult for you to find another respectable man. And then maybe you might end up dating dangerous type of guys. That case was never solved, you know what I mean? But yes, I mean, some people call it pansexual, some people call it polysexual, some people call it cheating. You know, it also depends how the wife feels about it. Yeah, that kind of thing. Let me move on to the next slide. Asexual. Oh, you lowered your hand, Ruizwa. Were you covered? This is what I was saying. There's a couple of hands raised.
No,
Please
no.
monitor and assist me
raising my
with those
hand.
in meetup.
Hello.
Lisa, it's great to see that your hand is raised. Maybe you can give us quickly also just a quick introduction of who you are and from what country, and then yes, please ask question. It would be wonderful.
My name is Voiswa Malako. I'm residing here in South Africa, precisely in Bloemfontein. Can you hear me?
Yes,
we
and
can hear you.
Okay. Can
Yes.
Nonso, can you go back to that other slide?
This one.
Yes, man. I've been hesitant to ask this question, but it's pressing me.
Okay.
If one identifies herself as a cisgender, is it also possible, because you're saying if you identify yourself as a cisgender, is that your gender matches your sex at birth?
Yes.
And
Yes.
then is it possible that on that note, one can also identify themselves as gender fluid? Can that happen interchangeably? I
Absolutely.
know at birth I'm a woman and I can associate with that. And I
Yes.
relate with them. But in the middle of it, now I tend to not identify myself with fixed genders, as you put it. Can that be possible?
Absolutely. That's the nice thing about gender fluidity is that once you are playing in gender fluidity is that when you are being cisgender in your gender fluidity, that is when your sex and your brain are telling one story, and then you can be fluid again and be transgender or gender non-conforming. There's still a long description of transgender where all that umbrella, it opens up to describe all the different things, because like right now we cannot fully count all the behaviors of a gender fluid person. We can't say that because if you're not fluid, it means that you are never going to change, you are never going to explore, you are never going to cross any line when it comes to gender identity, and you're never going to cross any line when it comes to your own gender expression, right? But we know, even with modern times, that something as innocent as if you watch an award ceremony, né? And we're watching the Oscars, for an example, and we'll know a cisgender heterosexual actor will decide to wear a dress on a particular day, you know, a male actor. And we know this is not a gay man, and we know this is not a um a trans person, and even women as well, when they decide to wear what is traditionally expected to be masculine attire, whether it is a suit, even though you get lady suits and things like that, that gender expression, because power and gender expression has also been given a uniform, you see. And then that's when we decide, oh, how are we going to play to kind of describe how we feel, how we want to be recognized and seen. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously, if a woman is dressed in very feminine, revealing, sexy clothing, they are definitely gender expressing femininity. But then, if the same woman, you know, covers up and puts on quite a neutral, perhaps even solid, you know, they're still playing in gender expression, and it's for different reasons, and these reasons don't even end in expressing gender anymore. They are furthermore expressing your own tastes, your own preferences, your own likes, and your own interests. But it always starts with like, oh, ladies that wear flat shoes, they must be lesbians, because they are gender expressing that they are not too feminine. Do you know what I mean? I hope I'm answering you, but basically, it's very possible, but you don't have to be so strict on yourself to say, just because I'm not dressed in the stereotypical female dress code, I'm being gender fluid. Not necessarily. Do you know what I mean? Because how we dress and how we express and how we look, it's now got such a large, scope of being able to see how you're going to play out your life, that you don't have to like wake up in the morning and say, oh, if I wear this dress, am I gender fluid? If I wear these pants, am I gender fluid? You don't need to be so hard on yourself in that way. I hope you understand. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you, Buyiswa. There was a long message there, Anita, that
Yes,
disappeared.
Cynthia, do you quickly want to read us your message? I think to
Yes.
hear it in your voice would be very much
Okay.
more beautiful than.
Yes. No, I was saying when Nosana was the lesson is really interesting, and I can't help I'm thinking. I've worked in the Department of Health. I'm a nurse trained, and I once was in maternity. And when you dealt with the topic on unisex, in the fact that there are so many individuals now who has to deal with the repercussions where parents made a decision that is potentially wrong. And I'm now thinking, we as obstetricians or midwives, how we could probably have even influenced the parents' decision. When parents give birth and you see the genitalia is not developed, and you want to insist, man, I need to know, is it a male or a female, because I need to report somewhere. And along the line, this is what happens to the very individual as it grows up, who later, due to the chromosomes, becomes different from the sex that the parent has chosen at birth. So I'm just thinking about the importance of advocacy, especially in the health sector, and especially in this area of maternity, where there is a possibility that sometimes when the parent make the decision, there could have been an influence from the healthcare worker, who has the authority, or the parent might not even know what to say. So I'm just thinking, Nosana, that perhaps
Yeah.
maybe that area needs some strengthening. I work in health, and I'm just thinking, I don't think they are aware, or maybe that's what I'm thinking. I don't know. What is your experience in this regard,
Oh,
Nosana?
yeah, Nansika. That for me is quite heartbreaking, and it's very serious because because what we are doing in advocacy right now, we are fighting either to remove the sex description on birth certificates, or even official documents like documents that have to force you to choose, are you Mr. or Miss or Mrs. Do you know what I mean? As a feminist, I'm MX because men don't change their prefix, whether they're unmarried, divorced, or widows, but the women do, right? So within the health sector, what the LGBTI activists have been fighting for the longest time, first of all, is to when there's an ambiguous genitalia, they've been advocating for no medical intervention, especially if like it's not life threatening, because unisex genitals are often normal genitals in the sense that they function properly, you know Like if maybe there's a blockage and maybe the child can't urinate, if maybe there's a serious condition that is a medical condition that's going to threaten the health of a child, that only that part needs to be attended to surgically if necessary. But most of the time, the intervention surgically is always for the peace of mind of the visual appearance. That's the problem, you see. And also the shame in and the panic and the anxiety of a parent who will be, but if you are not sure if this is a girl or a boy, what am I supposed to do? You know, I've got friends now who will have, I've got some young friends who had 2 kids, and they didn't go for the test to see is this going to be a girl or a boy. And even when the child was born, they specifically didn't buy pink for the girl or blue for the boy, because they wanted to have conversations with the child that allowed the child to identify themselves. Do you know what I mean? So in the medical profession, I think the most urgent thing is that we don't, first of all, do unnecessary medical intervention when it comes to surgery, and we actually normalize the birth of a child. Because I've spoken to nurses who, when an intersex child is born, then there's a hush in the delivery room, because now nobody knows what to say. All of a sudden, people are scared to announce that a human being is born, you know, and there's not enough space to kind of say, hey, this human being, we can't really tell what they are, and this child is going to need attention, but this attention shouldn't be one that is giving the medical professionals the most biggest influence. Do you understand? Parents should be sensitized to know that, look, there's no decision I can make now, today, on the first day of this child's life, that is maybe the permanent or the correct one. So it is a conversation that really needs to happen, because there's lots of misinformation. And unfortunately, most of the cases that could be assisting us to give us more and more examples, they are hidden, because parents are hiding. They say, no, don't mention the name. And people are not allowing themselves and their children to be interviewed around how they're feeling. I mean, the few documentaries that I've watched of intersex human beings, sometimes they didn't even know that they were intersex, because of how the brainwashing has happened from home to hospital, that no, it's normal. Every child has a surgery every 6 months. Can you imagine? So it is a crisis area that needs open-mindedness and area of exploration, and for the parents themselves not to have this shame and hidden secrecy around it. Because as a world, we haven't learned to know. We're just terrified. Oh, you've got genitalia. You've got a penis and a vagina. Oh my gosh, what can you do? We're frightened. So the advocacy around that is to normalize its existence, I would say.
Buiswa, you have a question? Fantastic,
Yes,
please.
it's in fact not a question but a concern. If a child is born with 2 genitals, and then parents and possibly the medical people decide that let's leave it until the child would identify with either of the two. I am worried about the psychological effects or impact of this on the child, because my concern is that at what stage would the child be conscious that I relate or associate with being a boy or with being a woman? At what stage that decision would be taken?
Yeah. And that's actually the main reason why the intervention is done so early, because of the fear of the psychological implications around a child not knowing if they're male or female. And what I can say to that I've got this book. There's quite a few books of intersex lives that have been written by individuals who were born intersex. This one is a friend of mine, Alexis DeVoe. She's American. Um, I've got another friend who I met last week in Cape Town who's intersex. And our fear, I would say, this is my personal opinion, our fear of fearing that a child's not going to be allowed and not going to be accepted because they're intersex is because we've only normalized two things. We've only normalized male and female. We have not included that we are all human beings, and sometimes our genitalia can give an ambiguous description, because after that, you can still choose your gender. Once you are intersex, you are not robbed of choosing your gender. It is, I mean, people that study historical types of histories with different cultures, this is not a new thing. You know, some children were known to be blessed and all kinds of things, you know. So for me, that's where I differ with you a little bit, because I feel like if the child grows up healthy, that the genitalia don't define me as a person, you know. The genitalia don't define whether I'm normal, whether I'm male or female, whether I'm a good person, whether I'm going to succeed in life. Do you know what I mean? I just have a particular condition, just like if maybe I had albinism, just like if I had one arm. Of course, all of us that have something that is very visibly different, there is a concern. But because it's not part of the conversation and it can't be celebrated, and we can't find parts of this condition that allows us to go like, oh wow, that's actually amazing, and we're not seeking out the stories of people of how they live, then you are always going to be fearful, because you're going to be like, well, this person's going to be outcast, this person is going to be tortured and teased. In the Tulana Emulimo Facebook page, I interviewed an intersex person, very open, radical, free spirit intersex person. And I was like, but how do you feel? Do you feel okay that, you know, you've had to grow up like this with your genitals looking like this? And basically, this particular intersex person had a vagina and a penis. And then I asked in the interview, because they were very generous with the conversation. And I said, so which one do you prefer to use the most between your vagina and your penis? And then he said, because his gender is male, he's intersex and he's bisexual. He said, actually, my vagina is shallow. It's shallow like an armpit. So there's not much that can go in there in terms of anything, which is why I prefer to use my penis. And it's each individual just having their own life and speaking for themselves, you know. So I do believe that it is dangerous to try and shield somebody from a pain that you are assuming, when we actually haven't done the groundwork in visibilizing and normalizing intersex bodies.
Thank you, Nosana. That was really, really interesting. And yeah, we specifically also look forward, once you're going to give us a bit of tips later on how to do advocacy on this topic, because it's obviously very, very necessary. And from the students' responses, it does seem that we all have been exposed to elements of difference, you know. So how do we advocate furthermore and normalize aspects that should have been normalized like centuries ago?
Hmm. Um, I thought this book was going to give a little bit of background of that this is an intersex person. Can we go back to my slides? I think I'm on asexual.
Yes, please. We're very excited.
Where are they? I don't know what I did now. No, sorry, I did
It was
something.
just there. I think we were at the asexual
We're
slide.
at asexual, yeah. But no, the thing is, I don't know where to find them because I shared so many slides, and even when I go to, there we go, that's intersex, asexual. And thank you so much for being brave to kind of ask these questions, you know. Sometimes we, LGBTI human rights activists, we can be so defensive and aggressive around how we are in needing the world to understand us, that it sometimes puts a barrier between somebody who's curious and genuinely questioning, because now I have an attitude that intimidates your curiosity. So please, at any time, do challenge what I'm saying, because that also helps my advocacy to kind of know, but this is just an innocent question. Do you know what I mean? Like when we were being electrocuted as queer people, those doctors thought they were helping, you know? When in the army in the 60s in South Africa, gay men's penises were being cut off because they acted like women, those doctors thought they were helping. They were like, no, obviously this penis is a problem for you. Let's cut it off. Now you maybe feel better. Do you know what I mean? There will often be things that seem like, well, it's cleared. Let's just not tell you. Let's just cut this. Do you know what I mean? And it's through this kind of interaction that we actually get to see, is it our fear that's driving us? Or are we going to be brave enough to walk through the information and the transformation that's needed in people's lives, you know? All right. Asexual. Ha. You don't want to have sex. You are not horny. You are not sexually attracted to anyone. For me, this is quite a painful sexual orientation that I'm finding, because now we are all these sexual beings, right? We are all in our skinny jeans, yeah. We are all looking so sexy for each other, and somebody's just supposed to walk in through the door, and immediately I'm supposed to know, would I have sex with them or not? I think that is far too much pressure. Why am I supposed to immediately know as you walk in through the door if if I want to have sex with you or not? Why is that the current human condition? I haven't spoken to you. I just saw that you were wearing a Louis Vuitton and you have the latest hairstyle and you've got the greatest weave or whatever it is. And now we are being programmed as society by media to be sexually attracted to each other as a requirement of normality. So I'll talk about myself. When I was in my pre-teens, I was a tomboy, you know. I I I I had friends that were boys, and I had very unisex clothing which I preferred. I wasn't always wearing a pink dress or whatever. And this grew way into my adulthood. And then later as a feminist, when I realized that, why am I wanting to just be a human instead of being overly expressing myself as a female, I realized that I was protecting myself, you know, because this advertisement of being sexually available is putting a lot of pressure on us, you know. Now, women, like, we have to make a decision. Do I want to be sexy? Do I want to make someone thirsty? Imagine, right? So even within the LGBTI community, and I obviously imagine in the heterosexual community as well, I think there's a lot of pressure to present and behave as sexually people full of sexual appetite. That's the only thing that makes us like desirable. And asexual people are slowly hiding. Yes, no. Asexuality is different to celibacy. It's different to abstinence, né? Because maybe you've just decided you don't look, you may be playing it out as celibacy because maybe there's a time that you're taking some time out or for whatever reason. But I like to highlight it in this manner because I feel that we are giving each other, especially young people, a lot of pressure to know what they're sexually attracted to, and you can be questioning somebody who's questioning what you're attracted to for a while. Is there a hand that's up? Can I just quickly get into the next category of asexuality before I take that hand?
Yeah, I don't see a hand at the moment, so you can just carry on. Matthew's just making an...
Yeah, that it can happen after disappointment, that you just shut down. But what we're also giving rise to is that, first of all, you can be heterosexual or homosexual or any type of sexual orientation when you are asexual. And people mustn't be like, oh, that one is hurt, they don't want sex anymore. Oh, that one is whatever. But there's subcategories of asexuality, which I'd like to cheekily include here, please. Sapiosexual is somebody who may have identified as asexual, but then they realize later it's not you sexually that they're attracted to, whether it's your body and how you look on first glance, but maybe they're attracted to you because you're intelligent. Maybe they have a conversation with you and they go like, actually, I'm not really interested in sex, but this person, I like the sense they make, right? And then that has become quite a it has become quite an internet, type of description of types of sexual attraction. And then the other subcategories, demisexual, which I think we all are, because like I said, I'm challenging the thing of, hey, there you are, sexy in the room, I would have sex with you, ne? And then the second person goes, yeah, great, you look nice, I like your outfit, but what's in between your ears, right? And then the demisexual person is saying, but I don't even know what kind of sensitivities, what kind of kindness, what kind of heart you have. Do I feel safe with you? Right? So we are jumping into sex before we know if we are safe. So I love the demisexual sexual orientation, because now this is also somebody who's going to say, no, I'm going to get to know you first. And I like this. This does not strictly belong in LGBTI. But you know what I mean, right? Some people say like, oh, if I get to know you, then I'll never have sex with you because I will respect you too much. Then I think, oh my gosh, our sick world. Why do you want to have sex with somebody you don't respect? Why do you want to have sex with somebody that you barely know, that is a stranger? But guess what, guys? That's the disposability of sex. Sex is just this thing. It's just this, And that's why a lot of people are choosing asexuality. They'll be like, I'm not going to be a target of somebody's, I'm not going to be a target of somebody's, you know what I mean? So it's very, yes, it is for the youth, Cynthia. Why are we now have to be initiated into sexual practice through random sex and outfits? I liked what you were wearing, let's have sex. And you don't even know how kind this person is. So that was what I was wanting to subcategorize as asexuality. The big subject, Tulwana Imulimo, the organization that I work for, we are funded by a global fund to do HIV testing and counseling services for the transgender community. Yabona, I said that we were an LGBTI NGO, but the funding can get so specific that they say, no, only fund trans people to test for HIV, and then we have to put advocacy around it, because the transgender community doesn't exist on its own, and the person does not immediately identify as transgender. You could have so many stages before you identify as transgender. You could first be bisexual, or you could first be gay, and then the more you know yourself, you'll be like, actually, this body I was born in does not fully describe the person I feel inside. Ne? And therefore you are transgender. And this is also going to speak to some of the questions you were asking earlier, Anita, gender non-conforming, all of that. Where does this fit in? It fits in this very large trans umbrella. Ne? Because now if we can look back at all the other descriptions that I've mentioned, sapiosexual, demisexual, cisgender, fluid, ne? If asexual, right? If we are looking at a person holistically, mind, body, heart, right? And we are thinking, this transgender person, their whole life story is not to get out of jeans and into a dress. Their whole life story is not to grow a beard. Their whole life story is not to become the opposite sex. Some people want to exist within the line of just being a human being. Maybe the form that you take, you'll be like, I've looked at the two options. I'm not into sex necessarily. I've just looked at the two options that are presented to me. I've looked at there's male, there's looked at there's female, and guess what? I'm not satisfied. I don't feel included in either of those descriptions. I'm going to remove myself from being male or female. I'm trans because I'm gender non-conforming. I'm not going to take the binary of male or female. I'm non-binary. We are now in the big transgender description. Yeah? So my sex, my gender, once I start being fluid about it, once I start being questioning about it, now I'm already in the trans umbrella. And we don't even end there, because transgender individuals, whether you're trans because you're non-binary or gender non-conforming, or you are androgynous, you're on the unisex line, as you walk through the world, you want to be able to pass as both male and female. You know what they used to say? They would say, oh, but you're so beautiful. How can you be a lesbian? Lesbians are the ugly girls, the ones that the guys won't like. Oh, but you're so handsome. You're such a handsome man. You're well built. How can you be gay? No, the gay boys are supposed to be the ones that are a bit feminine. All of that needs to be discarded completely, because now we are still trying to put uniform in a person who you are not acknowledging how they feel. You're looking at them from the outside, right? So the transgender community still is going to have their sexual orientation. We are going to easily expect, oh, you're transgender, you are RuPaul, you are drag queen, you are runway model, you are over the top, you've got your pink and blue and green. It's just a performance. Now you're feeling pressure as a transgender person to be this over the top drag artist. No, that's not your personality, right? Now you are transgender, you're a woman, you are dressing as a woman. Who says you are heterosexual? Who says you are attracted only to men? We don't know if you're bisexual, pansexual, you know. So the transgender umbrella, it really needs to include all of these other expectations within the transgender community, within society. I mean, I know of a trans man and a trans woman that are dating, right? And now people will go like, yeah, but now you guys are having normal sex. How dare we say that we understand two trans people who are dating? One is a trans woman. We know this woman's got a penis. One is a trans man. We know this man has got a vagina. And we don't know what kind of sex that they're having. We don't know if the woman is using her penis to penetrate the man. We don't know if the trans man is putting a strap on. We don't know. Do you know what I mean? Because a big part of the trans expression is also the energy. Ne? There are gay men who will say to me, hey, Nosana, I'm in a mood for a trans man, you know. It doesn't matter that they've got a vagina. You know, these trans men can just be so masculine and sexy, and, you know, it doesn't matter. I can get past the vagina. You see, we're operating in this brand new world of the transgender experience, which is why it took me so long to get here, because with all the different little intricacies that we have to first understand of the person's preference and that kind of thing. So the trans umbrella is ever changing, is evolving, and no two transhumans are the same, and we don't know who's having sex with who, what they are using, if they're having sex at all. We just know that they're not identifying with being cisgender. They've got some flexibility and fluidity around how they express. I hope I've covered this one. This can be quite a complicated one. And the most important part of the transgender human is that there used to be a time when we used to say, hey, what is it? Do you want to have a sex change? We remember those days now. Oh, you've had a sex change. Hey, that's an offensive word now, because we understand now that if you were assigned a particular sex at birth and you live as the opposite, you are not changing anything. You don't need to change your sex. So the term that is used is that you are aligning yourself. If you're going to go through surgery, you are aligning yourself. You know, it's gender reaffirming surgery, right? And with all this transgenderness, the surgery sometimes is not even wanted by the trans person. So you can be transgender, no surgery, you're still transgender. You can be transgender pre-surgery, before surgery. You can't say a person's not transgender yet because there's no surgery. You can be transgender pre, post, and no surgery. Ne? Because people socially transition. Ne? You tell a person, oh, this is me. I mean, these surgeries are expensive. In Bloemfontein, particularly in the Free State, the hormone therapy treatment to access is just a long waiting list, because top of the list are men with erectile dysfunction, people with cancer. You know, the transgender community are like the last to be considered, because now it's very easily understood by doctors that, oh, you are in menopause now, we need to increase your levels of estrogen, you know, because we know that you want to feel female. And a lot of doctors do not want to take the time to kind of test your own blood and everything to kind of increase the estrogen or testosterone to a level that's going to change your body to the way that you want to feel, you know. So you can be transgender and decide, I don't need medical assistance, I don't need the pills, I don't need surgery. Ne? But those that take that option, hey, you know, you must be ready. You must have had the psychotherapy, you know, because now here you are, you were a fabulous trans woman and you still had your flat chest and your penis. And when you took your clothes off, yes, you saw a male body, but are you going to be able to manage when you see breasts and a penis? You know, you must be ready for that, you know, because the waiting list for surgery, which is either one, very expensive, or two, very long, you can put yourself in harm's way when now the guy in the club, right, sees this beautiful woman and get, once you're on your hormone therapy treatment, your skin is becoming soft. It's not just the boobs that are growing. Your curves are forming, Gonda, and you are really visibly experiencing these feminine qualities and these changes to your body. So what we always advocate for is that, look, do not try and fool somebody who now you're going to be in a sexual position later, and then they get angry with you and they murder you just because they saw your penis, and they don't want to understand that you are a woman even though you have this penis and you've got these boobs and you're this beautiful. A man needs to understand that, hey, anal sex is an option, or other types of sexual practices, oral sex is an option. You are not gay as a cisgender man for having sex with a trans woman. She's a woman. Any questions?
Well, once again, that's very, very informative. I think, well, what I've got from this lesson is that the world is slowly adapting to accept trans people, and maybe in a previous world, it was just acceptable that you will have to go through the hormone therapy. But these days, you can just be comfortable with who you are. You don't have to go through the journey if you're not comfortable with it.
Yes, and with us working, Anita, with young people who want to have a consultation, I'll come to you now, who want to have a consultation with perhaps our social worker and need us to write them a letter that gives them an appointment at the endocrine clinic for a consultation to access hormone therapy, right? Sometimes we have to really make sure that we've done our psychoanalysis very well, because now there are trans people here in the Free State at different stages of beauty and development and physical changes. And then there'll be the peer pressure, right? You're trans, but you don't have your boobs yet. You're not trans enough for me. You're not beautiful. And then you will think, oh, you are dating that good looking guy because you've got your breasts. If I get my breasts, then maybe I will access the kind of dating pool that I'm looking for. Do you know what I mean? So within the advocacy that we do, it's also very important that, like, what are your reasons? Are you doing it to compete with the other girls, to get a boyfriend? Because this is about you. An external relationship should not be forefront in your choices around why you are wanting your hormone therapy treatment. Yes, Cynthia?
Cynthia, you wanted to add something?
Yes. No, I was just saying it's really interesting, Nosana. We are really learning, and I'm once again thinking about the transgender people in relation to. I think you said Tolana is doing HIV counseling. Do you also distribute PrEP? The vaccine.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We were not distributing PrEP. We were actually, because we've got outreach workers that are in the community, you can make an appointment. We meet at a clinic or even at your house, and we test you and we get your HIV test results. They'll either come out negative or positive. And we do encourage people who are negative to go on PrEP. So in the past, because certain amount of PrEP is allocated at certain clinics by our funders for our key population, then it was easy for them to access, because sometimes nurses in some of these clinics, they are not giving the proper information around what is the difference between ARVs and PrEP and PEP, you see. So one of the things that we are really pushing is PrEP initiation, that people go on PrEP. And I think within this new funding cycle, we may even be able to you could even be able to access it from us directly. But because we are not a health space when it comes to medical treatment, we are just a NGO. where what we hold within our space is the support groups and the dialogues, and then we invite it out. Part of our risk assessment with our clients is that we find out, where do you live, where's your nearest clinic, and then we make it easier for you to access whatever PrEP or ARVs or any medical treatment that you may need at your nearest clinic. And if you are afraid to go to your nearest clinic because of stigma and discrimination that you say you've experienced there in the past, we go to that clinic and we sensitize and say, hey, this is our community. Please understand that the blue file and you calling them by this name, can you please, all those things that need to be said at the clinic to kind of make it a bit more comfortable for a transgender person just to go access the healthcare. Yeah, we are trying our best. We are sensitizing a lot. And you must understand, Cynthia, sometimes nurses only want to listen to other nurses. So I won't always be the one that does this kind of sensitization, but it will be our nurse who knows exactly the clinical conditions and the responsibility of the nurses. So all of us have got our different roles. So the nurse will go sensitize in the nurse places. I often sensitize the Department of Justice kind of spaces and the police stations and stuff like that, because you can imagine the stigma and discrimination and mistreatment there. I've got a whole other slideshow for our advocacy issues and where they lie and how they're doing. Yeah, I'm almost done with this slide show, even though it only says I'm slide 8 or 14. This slide just really shows the history of the transgender terminology. We've come far with the terms and the words that were used to describe transgender person, right? Now we know that assigned male at birth, assigned female at birth is the way to describe it, because there was a time when they were saying male to female, female to male, and we found that to be an offensive way of describing a transgender person, right? Some older terms, I mean, if you've been watching films throughout the years, gender bender, gender blender, third gender, unsure is a sexual orientation and a gender identity. We have dialogues, and then we ask, what is your gender identity? And people can put there, I'm not sure, haven't decided, you're still questioning. The most popular one right now is non-binary, and this list is going to grow. A lot of trans people, or even if you identify as homosexual, some people want to be androgynous. The word androgynous means that you pass. If somebody looks at you and they see a female, you're happy with that. If they look at you and they see a male, you're happy with that. It's not a matter of, oh my gosh, you are such an ugly woman, you should have been a male. Oh my gosh, you're such a pretty man, you should have been a female. That's not what androgynous means. Androgynous is just merely that you like being able to embody and look as both. It's mostly slender people that get away with looking androgynous, because if obviously you've got a bigger body and you've got breasts and curves and you're quite big, it's difficult to look androgynous. But people do try to pull off androgyny with dress codes, being oversized clothing, or even slim fit, because slim fit is working for both males and females. And like I said before, the transgender human being is pre, post, or non-surgery. We're no longer saying you're not transgender yet because you haven't, whatever your little description could be that you're expecting a transgender person to be. All right. I'm going to continue. Yes, that's why we are working with the Department of Home Affairs, a lot of our transgender clients, unfortunately, are accused of committing fraud, right? Because your ID that you got in 1996, when you got your ID, you were still looking very much like John. Today, you are definitely Jennifer, right? And now here you are going for your job interview, and then they say, but it says John here, and you've just introduced yourself as Jennifer. And you've got the qualification, you went to school, and sometimes even in school, there are universities that won't let you write your exams because how you came in dressed to write your exams and how your ID looks, it looks like fraud. Oh, the work that still needs to be done. Do you know what I mean? But for me, yes, the laws line. Yes, let's put the third gender in, let's put in the transgender in identifying people's gender identities, but it's still the attitudes of people that are really going to make this thing smooth. You can put the unisex toilet in a restaurant, but if your patrons are going to be all offended when they see whoever they see in the bathroom, the policy, the laws, the descriptions have been placed visibly for people to know. Because I mean, if we've got the most progressive constitution in the world as we do, as South Africa, structurally, in the constitution, we're supposed to have equality on paper, but it looks totally different when you are physically walking through the world and going through your experiences, right? So it's up to us, each individuals. I can't go quote something in the constitution if somebody is got an attitude, So absolutely, I'm familiar with that, Cynthia. Gender expression. Okay. Just like we will have a social. Yeah. Thanks for that, Anita. I get excited when I talk about gender expression, as you can see, because gender expression has got nothing to do with your sexual orientation or your sex or your gender identity. It is merely there to kind of like assist you to communicate how you want to be received in the world. Ne? Right? I don't think the Z83 form accommodates. We have to explain. And even when we change our ID, the one that said I was John, and then I changed my gender marker later, the paperwork. I mean, that's where advocacy lies. And that's where we need to be invited into the spaces. And then people say, yeah, but the system has been like this for too long. It would be like changing however many millions of papers to update them, but that's why we're here. We're talking to university students who hopefully some of them are going to study IT and things are digital. Who knows what's going to happen? Let me continue about gender expression, right? If I'm describing to you and letting you know my pronouns are she, her, they, them. I'm expressing that she, her, I identify with as a gender, and they, them, I identify with as a gender. We may not have gotten that much into what is they, them, but if you are gender non-conforming, if you are non-binary, some transgender individuals as well, they don't like it if you say, ladies and gentlemen, you've left some people out, right? So the they, them pronoun is there to include those that feel excluded in the male-female binary. And you can gender express just by, because then the person knows, but and you'll see me, you'll see my body shape, and you'll see my body features, and you will immediately assume that you're talking to a woman or you're talking to a man. But a non-binary person, physically looking at them, you won't easily know what their pronouns are until they give it to them. And once you hear that a person's pronouns are they, them, you must try as much as possible to use those pronouns, because it's obviously automatic that you will see a non-binary human being in a female body, for an example, and it will be automatic to say she, her to them the whole time, you know. And the most important thing is to correct yourself. Always correct yourself, and always apologize and explain that, hey, oh no, I mean, I'm sorry, you know, it takes practice. It really does. My own colleague who I met in 2019, butch lesbian, I was like, but you're a trans man. No, 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 I'm too old to be a trans man. I'm 44. I don't have time to be changing things now. And then 2 years later, hey, he is now changed his name, changed his pronouns, goes to the male bathroom, fully exercises and gender expresses his male gender expression. Do you know what I mean? And this is done, like I said, with the pronouns, with the clothing, with the look, with the voice, right? You can tell how somebody's gender expressing through that moment of flirtation, you know. Are you going to be the giggling, girly one? Are you going to be the hey baby one, right? So gender expression is a beautiful playground that is seriously for transgender people who need to really show you physically or show you verbally, né, how they express and how they want to be identified, né? Or obviously it's the art form as well, the playground of um, you know, dressing up as a girl. You know, we know that actors that dress as women in films, they are not gay, they are not transgender. It is an art form. Do you know what I mean? So for me, when a person is gender expressing, okanye, you are seeing someone for the first time, I've noticed even within heterosexual spaces, hey, that maybe if a woman, a cisgender woman, feels particularly tough and defensive, they're not going to wear a flowy dress that makes them kind of la-di-da about things. They will wear kind of like protective clothing that shields them. And it's unfortunate that gender expression, it's only male and female expressions. But we are here, we are non-binary, we are out here, and doesn't matter what we are wearing, please ask pronouns. Especially when you know you are in a space where there's a possibility that, you know, you could be excluding somebody. Nowadays, when I even in the theater, perhaps I'm going to be opening the theater, and then I say, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I never ended there. Everyone always knows. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and all genders, you know, because now you mustn't exclude anybody. You are welcome, whichever your gender. Right. This is where we wind it down to LGBTQ, right? What I'd like to highlight here, we know what lesbian is. It's two women attracted to each other. What gay man is, two men attracted to each other. What for me, I'd like to push in the advocacy side of things is that we have also started policing these descriptions and say, oh, but you don't look gay. You very feminine. You wear lipstick. Oh, lesbians are supposed to dress like this. Gay men, how can you be gay? You know, that's also like where we think we can watch a person gender express and we can immediately tell whether they're lesbian or gay based on their clothing. That's a no. anyone can be lesbian or gay, no matter how they dress. I was in Johannesburg last week and I was so surprised to meet some of the celebrities who are queer. And I was like, wow, even me, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know, because there isn't one look. Do you know what I mean? Yes, people do take on gender roles. You do often see that a lesbian couple, sometimes one will be more masculine and the other one will be more feminine. Yes, this does happen, but that is not the expectation and it is certainly not the requirement. Because now two feminine lesbians are dating, right? And then a butch lesbian says, hey, there's something wrong with this party. You're both too girly. Can you imagine? There is still this kind of crazy, toxic thought around how to behave, how to look when you're a gay or lesbian. All right? Bisexual, like I said, is updated. Is there now new terminology for gay men such as top or under gay? Yes, the top and bottom gay man. If you describe yourself as a top, it usually means that you are the penetrator. And if you're the bottom, you are the one that gets penetrated. And then there's also versatile, whereby you can swap. Normally the dominant position is the top, and the submissive permission is the bottom. But I know gay men that don't even have penetrative sex. There's also that expectation. Oh, people are having anal sex like crazy. No. And a double plug, what is it for? A double plug, it usually means, it's actually an offensive word. It usually means that you are versatile. You don't just get penetrated, you also penetrate. In pornography, I know a double plug is usually when women are penetrated by two men, one in the anus, one in the vagina as well. Women also penetrate men, heterosexual women. They wear a strap-on and it's called pegging. And then you peg a man. And heterosexual men enjoy being pegged because their G-spot is in their anus. Doesn't mean that you're gay just because your girlfriend is pegging you. Right. Yes, bisexual men and women, like I said, is mostly updated to pansexual now. But what breaks my heart around people that are identifying as bisexual, you know what? Because now the bisexual person won't be trusted. They'll say you're bisexual, you can't be trusted, you're a cheater, you like both. If I'm a man and I'm dating you as a bisexual man, I'm always going to be afraid that you're going to cheat on me with a woman. If I'm a woman, I'm dating you as a bisexual woman, I'm going to be afraid that you're going to cheat on me with a man. And if a bisexual person is in a heterosexual relationship, that person will also be so insecure that, oh, you're always going to want the same sex. Me being opposite sex is never going to be enough for you. If you had heterosexual sex today, you're going to want to have bisexual sex tomorrow. You're going to want to have homosexual sex tomorrow. So the bisexual community, I'll get to that question now about the confidence. I didn't see it properly. The sad thing about the bisexual people right now is that they're slowly being erased. They are slowly being told that they're on the fence, that they must make a choice, they must make up the mind, they must make a choice. And it really is unfair because it is a very legitimate sexual orientation. What was that other message that I missed there about?
Yeah, I can read for you, Nosana. So Matthew wants to know, why are some people not confident about being gay or lesbian? Are they scared of discrimination?
Oh, thanks for the question, Matthew. There are privileges that we have in the world, right? And the first privilege that you have in the world is being cisgender And the second privilege that you'll have is to be heterosexual, because it's not something that is questioned about you. It is normal, right? So the lack of confidence that I can say in the broadest of terms, it comes with your way of being and the way that you are not being considered the most common, the most acceptable. Those of us that are openly gay and openly lesbian, we had to fight for that confidence. We had to be defiant. We had to be unapologetic. We were do or done about being ourselves, right? And we not all in the same environments. Some people, if they come out, they're at high risk of being raped or kicked out of their home or losing their job or losing status, or disappointing whoever. It sounds very, I'm glad that today, Matthew, it sounds like the LGBTI community is so empowered, is so powerful, but it's not the reality. It really is not. The fact that we needed to be listed in the Constitution to be equal, there was a reason for that. We weren't considered equal. So the confidence is unfortunately not automatic. Ne? And that's why sometimes they'll say we over the top, we're too much. We are just trying to bravely take up space in the world, and if you are shy about it for reasons like maybe because you're still not sure, you're still bisexual, or it's because you have not built up that defense, that firewall of like, take it or leave it, this is me. I think it would be very presumptuous for us to look at a gay or a lesbian person and say, why aren't you claiming it? You guys have got it now, right? Because it still comes, and other countries as well in Southern Africa, we fortunate in South Africa, but even with our fortunate of our equality being drafted on paper, we are not walking through the world without the whispers, without the looks, without the points, without the insults. If some people just want to avoid that, So the confidence is not exactly an everyday thing, it's quite rare. And when it is there, sometimes we are just having it just to protect ourselves, because once you are a gay and you're also shy, you're also opening yourself up to being questioned, to being abused, to being correctively raped. Oh, that one is a whole other conversation, Matthew. It does start from home. And I've noticed, Cynthia, that when a gay person in the home is the firstborn, it's easier for them to act like themselves and to be gay confidently and walk in the community as a gay person, because they haven't had an older sibling who's heterosexual, cisgender. Yes, I wasn't biting your head off, Matthew. I just hope you understand, because there are so many societal pressures and peer pressures, and that's where the advocacy is also, that I'll show you in the other slides, right? The queer. Now, if you want to be all cool, like you've just done this little presentation with me, you don't even need to say LGBTQIA+. You can just say queer, because we are all included in there when we are queer. Because the queer is an umbrella term that we had to reclaim in the 60s and 70s when you were called queer. If you would even see it in the movies, right? A queer person was a pervert, a criminal, deviant, disgusting. We had to take that word back and say, we are queens, we are queer, So no matter where you fall on the LGBTI spectrum, you can be queer because the Q is there, LGBTQ. It's for queer, it's for questioning, it's for queen. and it's a term, you know, that if this is yes, and in all our homes we do it, and those of us that are fortunate that this is our work, we know that our family members, they need to protect us wherever they go. They'll be like, who's on, so it's gay, so what? You know, that's not the only thing about them. They've got other talents and things, you know. So yes, I can be queer by myself. I can identify as queer and not call myself lesbian or gay. Because the word queer, you know, I can say no, I'm queer, because I don't want to put myself in a smaller box, because the queer is a bigger box than the lesbian box. I'm in a female body and I date women, but I wouldn't call myself a lesbian, because I feel the word queer is more fully embracing, because I can be attracted to you if, you know, no matter what. Maybe you're not a woman, maybe you're gender non-conforming. Now the lesbian description now is limited, you know, and so I can be queer individually, or all of us within the LGBTI, we are queer. So this is the word to kind of really use when you're talking about the LGBTI. And that's the end of that particular presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nosana. I have to say this was really, really delightful. I've learned so much, and the students were very, very engaging. And I think that do the students want like a comfort break of I wouldn't make it
Yes.
more than 10 minutes to 15 minutes so that Nosana can catch her breath, and maybe you can come back with questions. I know from my side the question would be, we have eager students that's participating, and in development studies, support is we have to go out and do advocacy about a lot of stuff. And if we've got health workers amongst us, they've probably experienced a lot of this discrimination that you have been talking about. And it just shows how much still needs to be done. So, yeah, we would like some tips on how to do advocacy. Where do you start? You know, um, we have to start somewhere, and learning from the expert would be the best. So, can we be back, let's say, at 20 past 11? Is that too soon, or 25 past? I'll let Nosana, she's been speaking so much, decide what
Well,
will work for.
I'm on crutches, so I'm a bit slow. So if you don't mind, we can make it 25 past, because it's just going in and out of the room. I'm a
Okay,
bit
no,
slow.
no, totally understand. So students, please be back. We can even make it 11:30, but
Okay.
not more than that, because we still have a lot to learn. And yeah, we would like to equip you with industry skills on sensitizing communities about queerness. I'm very glad that there's an umbrella word for everything.
Yes.
So, okay.
All right. Thank you so
Okay,
much. I'm
so
not going to log out. I'm just going to pause and close my camera.
that's cool. So students, please be back, and bring us engaging questions. It's not every day that we have such a wonderful expert to ask our burning questions. So I'll see you then 11:30.
I'm
Okay,
back.
it's 11:30. Can I just get a raise of hands of excited students? Nosana's back. The lecturers are back. Matthew is back. Great. Cynthia Pumlani Vuiswa, can you just give an indication in the textbook or with a raise of hand or a shout out that you are here? Two students, that makes me happy. Cynthia is there. So, okay, thank you, Dean. Welcome back to the second session. As you can see, we're very privileged to have Nosana as our industry specialist. Yes, Nosana, without further ado, I'm just going to give the floor back to you. It's so engaging just listening and learning, you know. It's not every day that we at the university also get a opportunity to learn, you know. I mean, what you are telling us is much different from 20 years back. It's very relevant. And yes, the floor are yours.
Thanks, Anita. The second part of the session, as you're saying, is may I share some of the advocacy work that we're doing, right? I didn't give actually enough definitions in the previous presentation. I'd just like to make you aware that I have shared a terminology directory that has got about 4 pages of descriptions, which is not practical to go through. So I'm not sure if it's been seen. Did you?
Nosana, I think if you can run through what you think we need to know, I mean, it's very, very important. We would
Yeah,
really,
I just want to go through it. I won't be doing the
yes.
descriptions that I was doing before. I think it's called TEM terminology, and then we can just quickly look at that before I start because
Okay. Matthew, I see your hand is raised. Do you want to ask a question, or are you just telling us that you're here? Matthew? Okay, just type in the chat box if you've got a question, and then yes, please, Nosana, educate us. You know best.
let me see the files if I can access them. It's just the one. Oh, look, here it is, Tumana terminology. I figured it out. Is this visible, being shared, what I've got here? I'm not sure if you guys can see what I'm looking at here. Select a slide to begin sharing. Oh, here it is. I think it's about to come through. Fifth page. Unfortunately, now I can't see it because it's so small on my side. Let me see what happens if I do this. Is there a way for, can people see the slide that I'm sharing right now? Okay, let me maybe make it bigger. Here we go. Yes, it's small. I'm trying to make it, I think I've tried to make it bigger. This is just a 3-page list of terms that I think are important to be familiar with, because once you start speaking to somebody who can fully describe themselves and identify themselves, it's always nice when you're familiar with the word, you know. So cross-dresser. There are some terms here that I didn't touch on. Eesh. Let me just quickly look at date rape here and just say the saddest thing about date rape is that when you have been visibly seen being friendly and being like flirtatious with somebody that later you accuse of rape, it's almost as if everything that you happened to have done with that person before they got violent and took advantage of you, it's almost as if you were consenting to sex. And that for me is like, that's where the witnesses become the people that bury you, you know. Cyber stalking, cyber violence. You know, our gay men have been saying that the men who have sex with men but are secretly got girlfriends and wives, they like to come in via DM and inbox on social media. And it's very important when it comes to cyber stalking, I would say, that a lot of what I've noticed that we need to advocate for is that here I am now doing this talk, right? And then maybe some of you are going to start being open and friendly with members of the queer community. And then you might be starting to post on your social media positive messaging around queer lives, affirming queer stories, facts. You know, you might just be showing through the things that you post on social media, for example, that you're an ally, you are pro LGBTI rights, for example, né? And it's not uncommon for gay people to start creeping into your inboxes and say, hey, I didn't know you're gay. And then you may start getting unwanted attention. What always breaks my heart is when an ally becomes a target of unwanted queer attention. And this is probably something that maybe you guys weren't going to mention, because it's like, oh no, but you guys are the victims. How can I also be the victim? And things like that. It's not fair for us to take advantage of your allyship. It's not fair for us to take advantage of your kindness and to start tarnishing what you consider as human rights, sharing of information, and then we start attacking you. Do you know what I mean? So please be aware of that. So I would recommend that, yes, you want to do advocacy, and of course the first place that we start is on social media. Just put a disclaimer, you know, say, my girlfriend and I, as a cisgender heterosexual male, it really breaks my heart when I see, and then you just post something and you say you just put a disclaimer. These aren't the rules of how to do it, because you should be able to post anything that you agree with online and stuff like that. But I am just warning you that it would be heartbreaking for me to hear that you were trying to be putting positive messages like on your timeline, and then you had to stop immediately because either people thought you were gay or gay people started approaching you. Block those people. One incident or one action of violence does not represent the whole community, as you can imagine. You know what I mean? I thought I had to put that in there. I mean, as I said, I'm going through this a bit quickly. Some of these are very self-explanatory. Political feminism. This is the first question you asked me, Anita. Political stance and commitment to change the political position of women and promote gender equality based on the thesis that women are subjugated because of the gendered body. Absolutely. That's not the description I gave because I'm a radical feminist. The equality of being female, womanliness, yeah, femininities. There's a word called effeminate, which I don't see here. Effeminate. Maybe I should add it. The word effeminate means that you are a gay man, but you gender express quite femininely. It's not a word that should be used by anyone else other than the person describing themselves. Do you know what I mean? Because you are kind of giving that person a gender description that may or may not be welcomed, right? Because if you're an effeminate gay man, it's got so many implications. It implies that you're a bottom. It implies that you are submissive. It implies a whole bunch of feminine traits that not even all feminine women or even women agree with our feminine qualities. Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to add that part. For sterilization, that is hectic. There's a big case that was won by the Commission for Gender Equality on forced sterilization. Forced sterilization mostly happens in poorer communities, whereby they hear you're unemployed, you've got 5 kids, and then there you are, they're sterilizing you. Gender bias, prejudiced actions or thoughts based on the... Yes, Cynthia, absolutely. Yeah, Nanzika. Prejudiced actions or thoughts based on the gender bias perception that women are not equal to men in rights and dignity. Yeah. Gender binary, the classification of sex and gender into 2 distinct, opposite, and disconnected forms of masculine and feminine. That's why there's non-binary, right? Because the binary is the description of just the 2. The alignment, this is what I was saying, is like what we don't use the word sex change anymore. Gender alignment, set of medical measures that can but do not have to include psychological, endocrinological, and surgical treatments aimed at aligning a person's physical appearance with their gender identity. The word sex change, no longer used. Scroll down some more. Sorry, I don't know, I'm trying to scroll down. Here we go. Heteronormativity, the assumption of a person's heterosexuality. That's the privilege that I was talking about. There is no homonormativity. Lesbophobia. You know, I'm going to say something controversial now, which is, Anita, you want me to talk about active advocacy and how we can all get involved, how we can start, what is there to do?
Yes, I think it's important for our development workers. We are advocates in the end, and how do we go out in the community and do how would I say, knowledge, information, give it through to our queer community, and also make it more acceptable for the broader community that we are all human, you know. So I think I love the advocacy part, and always learning how to do it is important for our students too.
Okay, then I was just going to say something short, but the thing was just going to be that the reason why we need to have advocacy is because of all the queerphobia, homophobia, right? And when I was looking at lesbophobia there, I was just thinking that because a phobia is an irrational, unreasonable fear, and all the hate that is spread and the hate crimes that are happening in communities are because of people being used to being understanding only a heteronormative life, right? Whereby the only ones that are normal are heterosexual. Well, I like to say something controversial, which is to say, if you've got the time to be homophobic, whereby a gay person that you don't know is walking in the street and you are uncomfortable standing here just looking at them, I think that if you are homophobic, you are secretly homosexual. That's an opinion that I've developed through so many examples where I've heard incidences on the ground from gay men that say, I'm the only gay man in my, especially when they're younger, I'm the only gay person in my street. And every time I go to the shop, I will be heckled, I'll be insulted, I'll be pointed at and teased and laughed at by maybe the guys standing in the corner of the shop. And after 9 at the tavern, they will be the ones that approach me for sex, you know? And I was like, but if you are not homophobic and when you see a homosexual person, you don't have a desire to be aggressive or be violent or shame them, then you are secure within your sexuality. But what I would really like to out, this is not a well thought out plan of advocacy. I was just saying it as I was thinking it, that if it was known that homophobic people are the ones that are actually secretly homosexual but are denying that of themselves and are being secretive about themselves because they've got internalized stigma, then maybe we could assist in this business of the hate crime and all the rape, because now when you are aggressive towards homosexual people and you hate them and you're loud about it and you perform all these violent acts, there's nothing about you that's been questioned. Do you hear what I'm saying? Because now it's not it hasn't been just blatantly said, Uba, actually the most homophobic people are the ones that are secretly gay. Because why are you so scared of homosexual people? Why do they make you so angry? Is it something inside of you that you haven't come to terms with? That was just my little controversial statement there. I don't know what you guys think of that.
Does the students have any reflection on what Nosana said? For me, I'm really learning here that we have to be sensitive to each other and the human beings that each person are and start destigmatizing differences.
And that actually works with the next a bunch of descriptions here, which is revenge porn. Sure, we know all the people that have committed suicide after their porn videos have been exposed on social media. That is the most aggressive, most violent form of war of the sexes. I heard a terrible story a number of years ago, something that happened in the Eastern Cape, that a friend of mine who was working in an LGBTI NGO in the Eastern Cape, and we all know what's happening in the Eastern Cape. We know the Mthatha story with that very crazy GBV that's going on there. But there was this lesbian that was known that when you broke up with her, she would go drinking in the tavern and then she would pay some guys to rape you after you break up with her. And that was the most shocking story to hear, because I'm like, here you are, you're a woman, you've been dating a woman, and then now when you guys break up, you want to perform that kind of violence. You want to be complicit in the violence on women's bodies by actually partnering up with an aggressive man. And I was like, what? If this is known, how can this still be continuing, right? Because really rape and all of those things like revenge porn, I think that is the final, the most aggressive frontier that we are playing against each other, with as sexually active people, right? Sexual harassment, sexual slavery. Ooh, yeah. There's something called transactional sex that is happening, like I'm talking about the taverns and some of the townships that happen. I think I should actually share a slide on the top 10 reasons why straight men have gay sex just now. And for me, the advocacy is definitely just to share this information, because at the end of the day, when secrets exist in these kinds of spaces, it means the violence continues. Oh, the last one here that I added late, because it's not in alphabetical order, is the word stealthing. Stealthing is the act of removing a condom during sex without the consent of the partner. This is something that really goes on. People are liking to continue to say that no, the condom, sex is not nice with the condom, the rubber, it removes some of the sensation and all of that. But something that's definitely going on is that people are knowing that, hey, this person is not going to agree to condomless sex. I'm just going to remove it. I'm just going to remove it during sex without their knowledge. And these are the kinds of things that we need to share information about, because when a person doesn't know that this happened, and then they either contract an STI or HIV, if it's a woman, if they're suddenly pregnant, or they think that, well, I should have felt it, I should have known. I'm not quite sure how far we are in our country in reporting some of these cases, and in kind of just letting people know that, hey, that was like a crime that person did. The consent was removed, because consent is when three things have happened. One, you are not afraid to say no to sex. Two, you're not allowed to change your mind after saying yes to sex. Three, you're not afraid that if you don't say no, if you don't say yes, that this person's going to harm you in a particular way, and some people are out there stealthing also. Let me find one more thing here quickly. Sorry, there's something I want to show you. Top 10 reasons why straight men have gay sex. It wasn't one of the ones that I had planned to show you, but I realize it's in line with our conversation right now. It's top 10 reasons why straight men have gay sex. Here we go. No. I'll find it just now. In the meantime, yes, and that's why some people need to go on PrEP, because you'll think you've made all the choices, but boom, no, that's not the case at all. I'm gonna that. I'm going to show you some of our advocacy that we're doing. Unfortunately, now it doesn't look like it's in the order because it slides. And then I'll find, and then I'll find the other one just now. Okay. The title of this slide says MSM and Gay Men Advocacy During Lockdown. Please ignore that title because this advocacy is actually for the entire BTI community. However, in our organization, we do HIV testing for transgender and we do advocacy for MSM. However, you can never really exclude the advocacy issues away from another member of the LGBTI just because the funder says, no, only ask gay men what their problems are. Only test transgender men and women for HIV, and then we don't test anybody else who's in the queer community, right? So what we learned, especially during lockdown, is that because people were stuck at home together in abusive relationships, people were dating even before lockdown, and if they have like even a violent altercation or even a fight or even a threat against you, whether it's your own partner threatening you or it's another person in the public, if you are the gay person, if you are the queer person, you are afraid to go to the police station and report and say, I'm gay, this neighbor of mine or this partner of mine is threatening me, insulted me, or beat me because they were bullying me because of my gayness. Do you know what would happen? There were too many stories where the police would just say, oh, but you're gay, you shouldn't be gay anyway. So we had quite a few reports that actually our clients who are members of the LGBTI community are not going to report. They fear reporting because what will happen is if you are a woman or if you are a young person that is reporting maybe GBV, you'd be taken to a private room to be able to tell your story in, in a private environment. You won't be standing there next to the people that are busy certifying their certificates. So I'm a gay man. I fought with my boyfriend. He just gave me a black eye. And then the police want to stand around and hear my story and laugh and call other policemen, and my whole story becomes a joke. So the advocacy that we are doing around that is, this is a kind of poster that we'll share on social media, for example, and this will be a topic and say, hey, has anything ever happened to you at the police station? Which police station? And we've got reporting mechanisms at some police stations where we've got LGBTI suggestion boxes, and we've got a virtual one where you tell your story and then you explain what happened, where it happened. We've also got mystery clients who are some of our community members who are LGBTI, who we give them a mystery client form, and if they're going to go to, for example, a police station to do anything, it can be to certify a document, it doesn't have to be to report assault, and then that information is filled in, and then the boxes were not that successful because if something, say for example, it's happening right there, Anita, at the police station, you are too angry and upset at that point to stick around and fill out the form, right? So that's when we made the forms virtual, and then even then, by then, if we didn't hear the story directly at a dialogue whereby the topic happened to come up, we would really miss out on actually identifying the police station, identifying the actual police officer, because luckily now we are also working with the UFS Law Clinic and we are giving them our human rights violation reports. But the culture of the fear of reporting assault of the queer community at police station has been for so long that we are actually needing to invent different strategies, which means we need to identify a brigadier whom we have identified, who invites us to different police stations to sensitize every so often. So the solution is sensitization, repeat sensitization. Ne? Because first of all, when you sensitize any police station, not all the police will be there on that day. Ne? And then new policemen will come, and it is a very serious problem all over the country. And you can imagine when a transgender person is coming to report assault, they will first be ridiculed for their dress sense. We really try and make, like, luckily around the Mangawong, we have successfully gone to a few police stations and sensitized, and we've been welcomed. But wherever we are welcomed because at least there's a welcome staff member, and in the time that we are there, we are heard. But when we leave and any isolated incident happens, then we still need to hear about it and return, which is why my love for graphic designing and multimedia always involves stuff like this, whereby we have a picture of an image that maybe incites and sparks a conversation that maybe will get to us,
Bhuvishwa, I would love to hear your question or your comment.
My comment, Dr. and Nosana, is around exactly the point of reporting crimes, because we cannot only say it happens to the queer people. It happens to women when they go and report GBV. The first question police people will ask, what have you done? It happens to our kids when they go and report the abuse by the parents. Then you'll be labeled as a naughty child. But then you do sensitization, awareness, but nothing completely changes in terms of these police officers taking the crimes conducted to the other person serious. So it got me thinking. I don't know if I'll be using the correct terminology in terms of these psychometrics tests. When a person would then, the Z83 is fine, can we then put the person in test in terms of his thinking, in terms of diversity? What are his beliefs? And we'll find our answers there. I think the psychologists will find the answers there. That this person, yes, he applied for a job, he qualifies for being a police officer, but in terms of his beliefs, when it comes to diversity issues, we are having problems. So I don't know if that can be done. I'm not sure.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. Besides the sensitization, when we are given a longer time with the police station, for example, we do have workshops that have got generic questions laid out in a survey style, not exactly psychometric the way that would be done, but for a police station to pass, to have been sensitized, there have to be a certain number of questions that they answered correctly. Like an example of a question will be, should I help a gay man if he was assaulted by another man? And then as simple answers, like simple questions that if think that that's how you believe, and you don't think it's wrong to believe that way, we have insights into those types of answers, and then we actually identify, well, listen, there was a certain percentage that actually believed this, and
Okay.
actually this is really violating people's human rights. And then there's some people that you're never going to ever be able to change anyway. And some people who are going to pretend and lie in their answers and those kinds of things. So you're absolutely right. If we all work together, where when policemen are hired, those kinds of tests are put into in consideration, and even us, because we will never get more than 20 minutes at a police station. And look how long we've been talking. Do you really think how much can we get done in 20 minutes at a police station? Do you know what I mean? So it really takes multiple partners and a multi-sectoral approach,
No, that's correct. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you so much.
Can I maybe just share a comment as well?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, I think I agree with Buiswa in the discussion. In general, I think the security and safety cluster, to an extent, has really failed us. Maybe not in all its aspects, but we have seen that. I recall very well when the Domestic Act was promulgated some years ago, there was an intention to assist women also to report, crimes maybe against their husbands or partners easily. And there was some sort of a collaboration that was put in place between health, justice, and police in the form of your Tutuzela centers to try and assist, those who are sexually violated, whether children or women, to report. But surprisingly, you still see an increase in the femicide. You still see things not making the impact. This awareness, these 50 days of activism against women and children. I really don't know. But I guess it is these types of interventions and information that you are sharing that will continuously have to go out there. And one is just hoping that many of us could come to the realization that we have to be the keeper, our brother's keeper, to accept everyone. But it's a difficult thing. But I'm still saying this information is so useful. I mean, really, the problems. I'm just imagining a gay person going to a police station and facing this. I was about to say stupid policeman who's not even interested in listening to the story. It's really hurtful, and one can only hope that we do a lot of sensitization out there, and therefore I'm really looking forward to the lesson unfolding so that one can pick up some advocacy tactics and see in our little corner what is it that one can do. Look at even at the churches. It's a problem in all sectors of society, basically, that the queer community is facing, and it is a challenge.
And it's not something that we can solve for people. What you're saying, Cynthia, it reminds me of a bisexual woman who was living with the boyfriend and the child, ne? But she was bisexual and she was having an affair with another lady, ne? So when the partner, who's male, found out that, hey, when are you sleeping with a woman, she would that partner would beat her up and try and find the girlfriend to assault them. And when she went to the police station, the police would be like, yeah, but your boyfriend is right, what are you doing having a girlfriend? And then the case got to my desk, and then I was saying, but when you yourself are staying with this boyfriend of yours, it doesn't matter if you're bisexual, but now you are cheating on him and you are putting yourself and your girlfriend at risk, and your child is witnessing this. Ne? Is it not time to empower yourself and make a choice for your own safety? Now you're not making a choice to either have a boyfriend or a girlfriend anymore. And you're not the policeman is not helping you. You understand? So the type of advocacy that I'm doing mostly when it comes to sensitization of our own queer community is like, please remember to stand up for yourself, because coming to Tulwana Emulimo is not going to help you when it's an emergency. You know, when you stand up for yourself instead, because now obviously you feel like you believe that you deserve this beating because you cheated. Ne? You're not looking at the further repercussion of the fact that this guy's terrorizing you and he's got support from the police. It's so the few successes we've had, this example I'm making, Cynthia, is that when you as an individual make a choice, and it's with GBV across the board, and it's not always possible, of course, I understand that, when you make a choice about, I'm going to get out of this violent situation instead of needing a police to assist you. Because I was even asking the police the other day, Uba, do you even advise people to put a protection order, or do you have to go to the police station knowing that there is such a thing called a protection order? You know? Let me go to the next advocacy issue. Our queer community fears testing for HIV at health facilities because obviously when you go test for HIV, you get given a risk assessment test and they get to find out how many sexual partners you have, what kind of sexual partners are they. And once you start revealing that, no, I'm in same-sex sexual interaction sometimes, then you find that some nurses are, you know, especially if now your clinic is near your neighborhood and you go to church with the nurse, and then our clients, some of them, they complain and say, Yazi, yes, we give out free condoms as an organization, but they're supposed to be free condoms at the clinic as well. But then you'll find that the condom dispenser is empty and there's no lubricant. And then the health facilities, they forget that some types of sex requires lubricant. Anal sex requires lubricant. And then it will just not be available. I'm not even counting the dental dams for oral sex. I'm not even counting the finger courts for finger sex. So the advocacy that we are doing around this, again, is going to the places and saying, listen, some people are having the kind of sex that, hey, have the lubricants available, and don't shame somebody for their sexual behavior. This is ongoing. And over and above this, you know, some of our health practitioners are also giving, you know, misaligned information around what is PrEP and whatever. So we are surprised that, Tina, we are doing advocacy as an NGO, and the health facility that's supposed to have the information around health services, we are still educating them. And that's ongoing.
This is really sad. I would like to know what is the National Department of Health? Is there a relationship between the let me say the activists for the queer community and the Department of Health? Because one is beginning to wonder whenever there's policy review, why are we not seeing this? Translate into actions, especially at the facility level, at the community level, where people, access the services. For instance, I'm now really thinking about just what you said when they go to a clinic. That is so true. Unfortunately, I have to admit that again they face stigmatization right there from the hands of people who are supposed to be protecting them or understanding better, but then it becomes a challenge. So I'm just thinking, I'm not sure, some commitment from, is there any commitment from the minister or the national department around the, health services in general for LG or the queer community? I'm not able to say this whole word. It always goes.
Yes. You know, we are trying our best. Every engagement, every interaction, every facility, we try and we, first of all, sensitize the facility to, like, you know what? Because as an organization, we assist the Department of Health. We are like an extra support. We should not actually be giving primary services that they offer. And what happens sometimes is that when our clients know that we exist, because we don't know how long we're going to have this grant for. It's just that the house facility is overburdened with so much stuff that it was recognized in the National Strategic Plan that actually key populations like LGBTI need specialized attention, targeted approaches
Yeah.
to healthcare support, right? So that's why we are there. We have targeted certain types of support. And unfortunately, because we exist, there'll be facilities that will be like, oh, but go to Tulwana, as if like it's no longer their responsibility. So these are challenges that we continue to speak about, we bring up when we are with the Minister of Health, when we with the Premier. I mean, we even work with sex workers, forget about it. I didn't even mention sex workers, like our relationship with sex workers is quite strong, and the kind of stigma and discrimination is there. There are measures that are in place, like the South African National AIDS Council, that have got structures provincially, and these structures, we are supposed to discuss methods of going forward, but some of these structures are not funded. So if you as an individual like Nosana doesn't work at Tulwana, whereby it's funded to do these things, because my type of advocacy is also like, I care, I'm going to do it, I'm not just doing it as a job. And when a nurse also decides, look, yes, I became a nurse, yes, it's my job, but what is my integrity towards my profession? And in higher levels, when you are not promoting accountability for your facilities, when you are not promoting accountability for your health workers, whereby when there is a report, there are no consequences, that's when advocacy needs to be strong. Like I said, we haven't really gotten a case yet that we are fighting hand in hand with the UFS Law Clinic, but we do hope that there is one that is strong enough that we can take that far. Because when a person is violated to this degree, they've already got so low self-esteem, they've already got so much pressure and hate from so many different angles that they might not even have time to walk the path of going to the equality court so when the more people that we actually that talk out and speak out, and our social media channels are a big space of kind of revealing human rights violations, we really do our best. But we do need to encourage a better culture of honest reporting and people who are just adamant to be heard.
I have to say, I'm really learning here the importance of advocacy, because although I have to, a lot of the stories are, it sounds negative, but at least there's a beginning, Each and every single policeman that you make his or her or their mind change is a win, and also with the healthcare workers. It's not as if the queer community hasn't been with us for forever. It's just a much more vocal community, and they've been fighting so long to be heard that it's quite disheartening, as Cynthia has said, to listen to how people are treated at a police station, at healthcare services that are actually supposed to look after your health. So there's a lot that still needs to be done, and for me personally, I'm very thankful for organizations like Tulwana who steps up and show us directions on how to communicate. So thank you, Nosana. I just had to voice my opinion there.
No, thank you so much, Anita. Here is what is the advocacy, advanced sexual reproductive health, which is so close to my heart, but so far away from our reach. Here we go to a clinic, and heterosexual people who are accessing family planning, who are accessing termination of pregnancy, who are accessing contraceptives, have got a normal life. that the information and the prescriptions and the availability of medical care is available. But within our LGBTI sector, we don't even know where to start if we want to plan a family. That there is no, like, it is so expensive and it's so privatized to be able to go and try and it's called in vitro treatment. I haven't written it down here. But if you, as a same-sex couple, want to freeze your ovaries, your sperm, if you want to have artificial insemination, to have a access to, making a family, it's not something that's available in primary healthcare facilities. The information, because we are struggling just to afford condoms and food and the basics, we are being left out of the sexual reproductive health conversation. And quite frankly, just like our ARVs and our PrEP and our condoms are subsidized, we are really doing advocacy for this not to be such an elite availability, this particular advocacy.
Yeah, Nosana, I think just here there is maybe a need to maybe start a conversation with because in every province, the provincial office, there is a reproductive health office or directorate. And I'm now sitting here and thinking to myself, sure, it would be quite interesting to have them into a room and begin to try and understand from their perspective, understand from their experiences, what is it that they are doing in and around reproductive health, because remember they are responsible for training districts and facilities on how to implement the services, and of course referencing the policies. So yeah, I'm kind of just thinking already for me that there will be a need to find out from them, guys, I mean, check here what is happening in the services, because I normally look at your strategic plans, but I don't see this specific area, highlighted or flighted some way so that it gets the attention that it requires. So I'm not sure if you understand what I'm trying to say.
I do understand. Like when I was in Cape Town, I was speaking to Johannesburg and international organizations that only access this through really high level sponsorship. And only the most intellectual and the most privileged have access to this. Do you know what I mean? And do you know what that means? That means on a local level, on the ground, there will be gay men who will decide that, hey, my mother wants me to have a child, I'm going to get drunk and have sex with that girl. It will be that kind of untidy, not well planned situation. And you are getting it out of the way. You are not even considering that you and your partner could plan this properly and can actually have a child with the best care possible. So that example that you gave me, I really wouldn't mind hearing who is that body that speaks on sexual reproductive health rights. And because right now it's only the Thabo Mbeki, the Thabo Mbeki education department that has got a specialized equality kind of gender equality. I mean, like, you have to know these things. You have to be like doing some post grad and be aware that some of these things exist. So yeah, some people, it's like, so now on the ground, queer people are becoming queer, are becoming queer, living queer, knowing that there's a sacrifice that they've already given, which is, I'm not going to have children. Like, it's already off the table. That's one of the tragedies.
Yeah, what I was saying, it's not necessarily a body. I was saying it's a directorate within the Department of Health. And this
Okay.
directorate is funded through conditional grant, which means this is not your equitable share. It's funding that government gets from international donors. And then maybe one needs to start influencing from that point. I'm just not sure where the department gets this funding, but your HAST, HIV, AIDS, STI, and TB, as well as reproductive health, are conditionally funded programs, and you wonder, because it's not even equitable share, why is it that this community, for an example, is not receiving the care that they deserve?
Mm. No, absolutely. The conditional grant and some of these, the general grant and the conditional grant, it ends up in meetings. That money ends up going, honestly speaking, to paying hotels. It just ends up there. I've seen so
Very.
many of these. And in the last one for healthcare, this is where we were talking about hormone replacement therapy, hormone alignment therapy. Apparently, it is actually a primary medicine that a woman that's on menopause can access this kind of um, medical care at any primary healthcare facility. But in the whole of the Free State, there's only one hospital, which is at Universitas, the endocrine clinic, that takes appointments for transgender people to qualify and speak to a specialist on whether or not they can be suitable candidates for hormone therapy. And it's a crisis. Trans women and trans men are committing suicide because of gender dysphoria. Like when you don't recognize yourself and you look in the mirror and you are just betrayed by your body, and the medical systems are there for you to come closer to recognizing yourself with this kind of medical care, and it is just not available. It is not accessible. It is our most heartbreaking and most urgent trans advocacy that we are doing. That's all that they're asking for, because surgery is even further away, right? So luckily we were successful in Mangaung. Dr. Silo Mukwena, he's come on board on the table with the conversation because he's the district director of clinics, and we are having a conversation around what can we do to have hormone replacement therapy available at primary healthcare facilities. Yeah. Sorry, these slides. Okay. When I talk to you and you're also quiet, I feel you feeling the urgency and the desperation and the pain and the injustice of it all. And I really appreciate you all listening like this, because these are things that are really overlooked, and there's not many spaces to actually campaign for attention and awareness on them. I kind of felt now when I spoke that you guys are hearing the deepest of it all. I'd also like to talk about advocacy that we are doing in schools for our young people. Yeah, I was supposed to be in Senegal yesterday. On Saturday, I was telling Dr. Anita Fenter that, hey man, there's a school in Senegal whereby learners who are LGBTI have been committing suicide because of the treatment by the teachers. The culture in the school of gender minority students, because there are spaces where especially in a school environment, where the aggression comes from the teachers. It's not something that's happening in the playground. So we have social workers where we can even come to your home if the first point of you being misunderstood, or you because I mean we've got clients that aren't given food at home, guys, because they're gay. They're not bought school clothes or even normal clothes, and they hear stories of the brother raped the gay sister. We hear what's being experienced by young people at home by caregivers. And when we speak to the Department of Social Development, they are still trying to decide how do they let our trans members and queer members into their shelters, you know, we're still having a conversation around that. It gets really, really painful when you hear that this kid was walking home from school, and then the boys that were playing there, they let the dogs loose and let them bite that trans woman. And then that trans woman gets to the police station and say, yeah, but were you dressed like this? That dog should have bitten you. You know, it's the stories, as you can imagine. Ne? So we are available. Please invite us at a school that you know that there's a problem. And we also have a book that was developed by the Department of Education called Challenging Homophobic Bullying in Schools, that assists learners as well as educators on how to handle LGBTI students, different examples, you know, and the information is there. However, this book is not a compulsory textbook in the schools, you know, because of the parents' protest, and then the principal's homophobic, and then the life orientation teacher says, no, this, I don't want to talk about this. But yeah, this is a very urgent advocacy that we are doing in the schools. Yeah.
Nosana, maybe you can just add a little bit more about the youths and how perceptions changed over the past few decades or two, that youths being more open.
You know, the more private the school, the more the school is in, maybe not in the township, but in you know, a school that's here in town, especially mixed race schools, especially schools that have a reputation for high pass rates, because now we're not talking rural schools. Those are the schools that are more progressive when it comes to just the learners themselves knowing that they have a right to express their sexual orientation and their gender identity in a way that best describes what they think of themselves. Um, the just on uniforms, for an example, in schools, I'm not quite sure when they had to change the uniform rules that girls are allowed to wear trousers, gray trousers, but the uniform is an entry point, you know what I mean? Because if you are a butch lesbian and you feel uncomfortable in a tunic or in the skirt, and then it's suppressing your ability to kind of feel like yourself, to feel comfortable in your body, to even want to go to school, because we've got a high school dropout, especially in high school, of LGBTIs, because of, we know now kids in school, they are not so strict. I mean, depending on the school, but you will see how they can tailor make the school uniform to really personalize them and how they feel, you know. And this is also heterosexual kids, you know. The skirts are so short, too short for my liking sometimes. The trousers are like, they've been slimmed down. And this all speaks to the conversation around, are our kids aware of how they can gender express, right? And the more they can gender express, if there's maybe even internet at the school, then those schools are more likely to understand that, okay, so and so is gay, so and so is a lesbian, so and so is transgender. But when there's a rigid education structure with the educators, whereby they are punishing the children from gender expressing, that is where the bullying is being let to run wild, right? So it's very important that you know, even if it's matric farewell, that we are not policing the school kids to, like, you have to have an opposite sex partner to the matric farewell. Oh, Anita, this is such a long conversation. But you know, those are the indicators of the school. Does the school allow same-sex partners to the matric farewell? Does the school allow gender expression? Does the school allow on Civis Day for genders to be expressed? Because that is the indicator if is in that school, are children free to express themselves? Because when they're not, that's when the bullying happens. That's when the kids are in danger. And like I'm saying, depending on the level of the school, and if it's a private school or if it's a more well-off school, it's, you know, there's, like, for example, like the suicide was in Senegal. That's a very small town. So it's not really, I would say, because of the years that have passed and times that have moved, but it's actually because of the actual the resources that are available at the schools, you know. And it's and parents can play a big part when a parent can actually know what should be allowed at a school and take note when it's not allowed. Parents have got a lot of power to influence school governing bodies. And parents of queer kids, when they stand up for their kids, it really it forces the educators in that school to know that the parents are not ashamed of the kid. The parents are not apologizing for the kid. We have to, you know, adhere to the quality treatment of this kid. It's such a diverse conversation, you know. Bob
Okay,
touched
so
on that.
I just want to make us aware we only have 20 minutes
We
left.
don't have a lot of time. Yes.
Yeah. So, Nosana, it would probably be great if you can highlight what's the essence and the message you want to give to our, I almost want to say all our students are already development workers, and I'm sure that I've learned about the failure of the security system, of the police, the failure in the health sector, as well as now you've mentioned the education sector. So making just even our students aware of how cross-sectional these challenges are lying. It's giving me a good feeling of success of the lecture. So I just want you to focus on what's the key messages you want to give, and students also take up the opportunity. You have an expert activist, advocate, and that's what you basically are in the real life, or advocates for something that you're passionate about. So ask questions, make the best of the next 20 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, unfortunately, the advocacy, it doesn't start with society. The advocacy doesn't start with community. The advocacy starts with self. Um, I believe when you wait for laws to be changed, when you wait for permission to do certain things, as a member of the queer community, if I waited to be given permission to be myself, if I waited for the place to be friendly enough to be ready, there will never be a place that is ever ready. Ne? And those of us that have perhaps been given like the gift to be able to be social change makers through examples of how we live and how we talk without anger, because anger also shuts down doors that could welcome us, you know. I've seen different kinds of activists. I've seen activists come in all aggressive, all angry. People's ears just shut down when you are coming in accusatory, when you come in with a finger to point and blame to make. I believe our approach in advocacy. We come in congratulating you already for the start and your willingness to help us. If we're gonna walk into the Department of Home Affairs, for example, we're not gonna come in there fighting and say, yeah, also you guys did this and that. No, we're gonna be like, oh, thank you, Department of Home Affairs, for treating us well, even if we know they haven't. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna come in there in an angry tone. We're like, there's so much. This is how we managed to get the doctors to help us. This is how we managed to get the nurses um, and the SAPS to help us. We come in with a thankful approach. We say, there's so much that you are doing for us. You are helping us. We get messages from our clients every day after an appointment. We once, even twice, created a certificate of gratitude to 2 police stations, right? Because a transgender client had been having some kinky sex and had handcuffed herself to something. And now there was the key, there was no key, there was some drama. Okay. And that's another thing. um, the, the lifestyle of being queer is associated with such kink, with such dirtiness, that we are seen to be such deviants of normal sexual behavior, that when handcuffs, that's like what, BDSM, right? But a transgender client went to a police station and say, please, we've been having sex, now we've handcuffed and the handcuff doesn't want to come loose, right? And then at one police station they said, no, we don't have the key, we don't know how to unlock you or loosen you from these handcuffs. Ne? The fact that that particular client felt safe enough to go to that particular police station and even admit what had happened, ne? And that the policemen there were saying, oh no, go to that police station, we think that one will be able to use whatever. Eventually, I don't know how, there was a bit of a scar. It was on the ankle. I'm looking at my wrist now. When we congratulate our spaces that are just giving us not special help, just the normal kind of help that anybody should receive, and we congratulate and we acknowledge them and we thank them, it makes it so much easier for them to want to do it again. So that's the message that I would like to leave us with, that when we come in with thanks, with gratitude, and we congratulating them for already a job that they're doing well done, and we are just adding on to that, we are still here to help you if you don't understand. Top 10 reasons why people have gay sex, why straight men have gay sex. Sometimes the men look at those reasons and go, oh, but this is true, I'm having sex because I don't have a place to sleep tonight. And making light and being honest about the scenarios, that aren't like I was born this way. The scenarios aren't like I was forced into this. The scenarios aren't like, these tragic scenarios, but are honest scenarios that other people see themselves in, that, what, this could have happened to me. It really helps us move 10 spaces forward, instead of trying to make an aggressive 2-step forward, because once you get in there aggressively with those 2 steps forward, you move 10 steps back with all the resistance. I hope I've answered the question.
That was beautifully answered. I would love the students just to give a quick reflection on the lecture, and what did you take from our guest lecture about advocacy, sensitive topics, and how can it relate to your reality where you are living? I am going to maybe start with Cynthia, because she is in the health sector, and how can you see the lesson that you're going to take forward in your world of work or personal lives?
Doc, there's such a lot that I have learned today, I must say, and there's such a lot of uncertainties that has become clearer. And I must say, Doc, when I took up this module, I think it was out of curiosity, but now it's getting a bit serious. It's getting into my heart. I work in health, like I said, and I usually ask myself a lot of questions around gender sensitive budgeting because as government, these phrases comes up and there's policy, but you never see the reality or the actualization of policies. And the same applies to employment equity. And again, how we misunderstand the feminist definition. And I was so glad, Nosana, that you dealt with it so well, that it's not about dismantling patriarchy, but it's about equality, and giving a voice to marginalized women as well, so that there's this equality coming up. So really, I have learned a lot, and I think going forward for me, it's really to start assisting my colleagues, especially when we have these calendar events, like your 16 days of activism against 50 days, whatever, or Women's Day, your August. I have seen people just not even knowing what they are doing. Let's start there. I'm not even sure those programs are misdirected. And I believe the information that came out here, there is so much that we need to do to sensitize our healthcare facilities, which are at the cold face. That is the area where you will have your cure community going there and getting into contact with a healthcare provider who has no clue. You know what I'm saying? So we really need, as a health department, to begin to integrate these issues into our programs and make them tangible. It must not be something lying out there, but then you do not see it even in the performance agreements of people, so that we begin to see results in these areas, Doc. So for me, really, there's a lot that I picked up, and I want to already share with my colleague from the reproductive health. I mean, there's a new director, and I know she's kind of like my type. We like saying things, and we get concerned about things that are not happening, especially for your vulnerable groups. I mean, can you imagine young girls of 17 coming to do TOP, what they go through? Can you now imagine if it's somebody from the queer community, it gets even worse. So I'm saying, Nasana, you're correct. The harvest is full. There's a lot that needs to be done, and Tolwana cannot be the only one. We are in privileged positions really to can make the difference. Of course, I'm saying it being cautiously optimistic, because there's also other decision makers that don't know this information. For instance, an HOD would not know, maybe. And yeah, it's something that one will have to just put out there and keep on pushing. Know that there will be some kind of resistance, but it has to be done. I mean, I look at myself, I'm 55 years. Very soon I will be going on pension, but I'm not going on pension. I need to do something. And maybe these are some of the pointers that are coming forward to say, look, you need to take some role in the community going forward, Cynthia. You can bring in the nursing, you can bring in the experience from health, and you know what the problems are out there. And thanks to this lecture, punctuating them the way that they came out today. I think I'm different, Nosana. You've turned me into a little Nosana. And I'm
Oh,
very grateful, Doc, for this opportunity, and I'm glad I took this module, because one has to make a difference. Nobody should feel like South Africa does not belong to them when we've got such a revolutionary constitution. But then there's people going through all these sorts of things. We becoming barbaric, and somebody needs to assist where we can with the little that we can. Parents also, I mean, I once worked in education. I mean, I can just imagine a teacher having a problem with a person you know, who's got a different sexual orientation. I mean, it's so unfair. That is the person who must take care. But now it shows you somewhere in our training, Nasana, there's a problem. in the training. Maybe the curriculum, I'm not sure. Are these areas coming into the curriculum of teacher training, curriculum of nursing training, curriculum of midwives? That's what I think needs to happen, because that midwife is going to give birth and now see the child's sex organs not developed. But if he or she learned from the training, from the curriculum, it would assist. So really, from a curriculum point, from higher education, those curriculum developers need to understand this. I know people attacked NG Motera recently when she was talking about this. I read it. I can't even remember. I was trying to think. You know, we have life orientation. To what extent is it happening? Who's monitoring whether that specific syllabus on, the addressing issues of LGBTQI is done? Is it being monitored? There's no monitoring. There's no accountability. People do things with impunity. So
Yes.
yeah, sometimes I wish I can get out of government so that I can make a lot of noise. And yeah, I think I'm gonna learn. I was even thinking, I don't know, I'm struggling with research. I was even thinking, Dr. Anita, maybe if I pass, I'll do PhD going the gender route. But I'm still struggling here. So yeah, there's a
But
lot. There's a lot, and I am not regretting that I took this module. Thank you so much.
thank you, Cynthia. This is like really delightful to hear that. I think you're ready to take up that development role. Matthew, Pulani, and Fuiswa, we have like 9 minutes left. I would love to give you can just give a short recap of what did you take from the lecture, and yeah, it would be nice to get feedback. Matthew, will we start with you? Are you still there or did you run away? Buishwa, are you ready? Let's go.
Not quite ready, but I've just jotted some few things down from the department that I'm working for, is Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. It is always when it is mentioned that it was a previously male-dominant department. Now we are trying, because of its nature, engineering. Remember, with engineering, it was only men who are seen to be mastering the field. Now we are starting now to take on the women. So my concern with this lecture was that where is our queer people? Where is our LGBTQR in this field? Are we as a department calling forth these groups that they are welcomed, as much as we would say disabled persons and women are welcomed to apply, or we can give bursaries? And then another thing that triggered my mind is when we are awarding the tenders, we say women are welcome, we say disabled persons are welcome, but we leave behind this group. And when we go to our PESAL, hence I was raising the issue of Z83. When we go to our PESAL, there is a female and male demographics always. But on the floors on the corridors of our department, we see the LGBTQR. But no one is brave enough to say, let's change this, because we know on the corridors, we see them, we talk to them, they are our friends, they are our colleagues. So it's something that I'm taking, that maybe the demographics of our department have to change. When we segregate data in terms of gender or sexuality, I don't know. So those are the things that I have jotted down, that I think, I know with DPSA, they are trying very hard in terms of the demographics, that they include the LGBTQR. But it's as the province or as departments, we are it's as if we are very shy into enter that space. That's what I have noticed, because even if you do you have a workshop and you have attendance register. You in your mind it is there that I have to include, but you will always say male or female. And then someone said, if I just put in gender, then a person would have to say a transgender and for me it is still we are shying away from it. So those are the things that and in terms of tender awarding, remember when women were allowed to bid for tenders, came lot of fronting. These men would then use women to front. Yes. So if the LGBTQR people, if then would encourage and say they are also, and we go out to look for them, to say you have to apply, you have a business, we saw, apply for this. Even on that space, there's going to be a lot of fronting. I think. So those are the things that came into my mind when it comes to my department. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Vuyiswa. QBBEE. Put a Q in front of
Yes,
there.
yes,
I
yes.
left
Remember,
out.
sorry, non. So when you are mentioning that the triple BEEE, remember, I know it's 100%, and then it says when they are breaking the percentage, they would say 70% male awarding, and then 30% for women. Do you see now the LGBTQR? It's not featuring also on the triple BEE policy or framework.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, thank you for that. I must also become an academic and write down some ideas for your papers. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you for that. I actually wanted to touch on that and I didn't get to it. So thank you for including it now in your reflection.
Matthew Pumlani, are you silent on that side, or your breath been taken away with this lecture? We've got 3 minutes left. Do you want to give a reflection, or otherwise I'm just going to give the last say to Nosana, and I want to thank you very much for the presentation. I have learned as much as the students, so we are never too old to learn. And yes, I think that it's a touchy subject that we need to address as part of our development work package. So thank you very, very much, Nosana. We do appreciate the very engaging lecture.
My goodness, Nita, thank you so much. And I appreciate Buyisa's last comment because I was at the Kopano 2022 in Cape Town, Rollbacks, Resilience and Reinvention, which is like the Olympics of LGBTI advocacy in the southern region. We come from 17 different countries and we discuss issues. And the specific point on triple BEE is that we were even asked, like, who are the gatekeepers to our freedom, to our access to opportunities and this kind of thing, because we're talking development, yeah. It happens so often that even politicians who can advocate for us in parliament, it happens so often, even decision makers, it happens so often, even in media, queer media makers, content creators, station managers, that they play into the stereotype of what is supposed to be palatable and the stereotype of queer life is perpetuated consistently, right? And it's because when women, when children, when disability is put on an affirmative action, there's an incentive for whichever corporation or organization to hire and implement based to those advantages. But we have not made that list as the queer community because our thought leaders are not going to come out and be openly gay and speak on behalf of us, because they'll say, no, I'm gay, but That's got nothing to do with my job. I didn't get this job because I'm gay. And I think that's where we shoot ourselves in the foot. Because yes, you didn't get the job that you're gay, but recognizing it and actually putting in a path for the queer community to finish school, to take on subjects in university where we are previously not existing, like engineering, to take on spaces where we are needed instead of stick to hairdressing and fashion design. It really leaves us out of economic empowerment. So these are the things that unfortunately are also a privilege, like education. But I would love to see a mental process with school dropouts, LGBTI school dropouts, LGBTI entrepreneurs, and mentors that are saying, I see you, I see that you're queer, and here's a direction that possibly has greater heights. And I'll be part of that conversation. And we also have to inspire our LGBTI community members, because we've got a reputation. No, we just want to have fun. We just want to have parties. And if anybody here is in Bloemfontein in this conversation, part of the projects that I do get involved in are very thought-provoking subjects, intellectual subjects. And you find that, why aren't people coming to our event? Oh, people aren't coming to our event because it's not a party, it's not amapiano. And we really need to educate all of us to kind of do some responsible community development within our social circles and within how we are developing ourselves. And it's each of our responsibilities to do so.
Okay, so at this moment, I will have to leave you because I need to give another class.
No
But
problem.
just because I'm leaving does not mean that you can say a few final words, Nosana. And I just want to say thank you from my side, and we will speak again. And to the students, it was lovely having you. And yeah, let me go out of this room to my next class. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anita. All right. I'm not sure if there's anyone else that wants to say anything. Those were my closing remarks, actually. It was just Matthew who hadn't said anything, and Pumla. Is there any between Mateus and Pumla?
Hi, Nosana.
Hi.
I was a bit busy with something, and then I had to step out.
No.
Yeah, I missed a lot of the conversation at the end.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but I think you were recording the session.
Yes.
Okay, no problem.
Mr. Pei is recording it.
Okay, but yeah, it was a wonderful conversation, and then we learned a lot. And we are happy with what you are doing and then for what you are advocating for.
Thank you very much. Are you? What do you think of the fact that some people think being gay is contagious? That as a straight man, if you start having gay friends, you may turn gay.
Okay, no, that is some of those things are just misconceptions, but I used to be with them, but I'm not tending to become a gay, but I used to hang out with them and then I associate with them. It is just a perception. Maybe if you try it, maybe it will change, but I'm doubting on that. And there's no way I can say I'm not going to hang out with them. I will continue doing that.
All right. Thank you so much, Mateus. I
Yes.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Pumlani, I think you're the last person to please speak. Pumlani is still with us. It was a small group. Thank you very much. Thank you, Cynthia. And it was a lot more intimate than I expected, and it was very nice. I'm really grateful for your comments, and I'm grateful for I could feel the energy of your ears and your interest, and that's very rare because we do get booed off platforms sometimes having these kinds of conversations. So I really appreciate it. That's a sign off from me. Thank you very much. I'm going to be out. Thank you, Motlopedi.
Thank you so much.
Okay.